All right. What's up, everybody? How you doing out there? Welcome back to the show. This is last week's fights. My name is Thinker St. James, and tonight we are going over each and every fight from UFC Fight Night, Tsarukyan versus Hooker, taking a very quick look at UFC 233? 33.
223.
20. Jesus, wow, that close.
Yeah, you're in the
Number.
future, guys. We got a while to catch up with Thinker here.
Time traveling, of course. Yes. Well, and to do all of that with me, as always, the man who's going to keep me on track there, the Ohio player, Mr. Chase Parton. How are you, sir?
Dude, we are good. I actually wanted to give a quick shout out before we get into this because I was sitting here before the stream even started, and I know it's kind of a new thing for us, but I just wanted to let Bloomus out there know the song still hits every single time. Jesus
Absolutely.
Christ.
Bloom is coming through in a real way always. That is the homie with the music. Came through on the watch along with the Danish and German snacks for myself and Vitz King to try as well. And we'll talk about his boy Nicholas Dalby who fought on this card. So really everything crushing in the world of Bloomus. Appreciate you, bro. And shout out to Denmark as always.
Absolutely. Yeah, I just wanted to get that across real quick. Yeah, but
Hell yeah.
how are you actually?
Me, nice. No one ever asks around here. No, I'm good, man. Yeah, everything's going great. I had a really nice time with this card. I thought that this one was above expectations in a lot of ways. I think this was kind of a sleepier one on paper, but I think it delivered in a real way. And other than that, chilling. I guess we should say that the long teased review of Warrior that I had been editing after we did our live review of the movie is now out. So if you are hanging out with us for this episode of the show after this, go right over and you can watch Warrior and enjoy the very long and in-depth review that we did of that fine film.
Yeah, 100%. And actually, to your point that you started with, I will agree that this card, I liked it. I enjoyed what we got here. On paper, I agree. Again, sleepier of the ones. This is not one that I would say is jumping off of the paper. But what I will stand by, and we will definitely get into it, is that this card was really fucking good after the first two fights. But we will get into that portion of it.
Yeah, absolutely. That is definitely true. Yes, of course, we are going to get into each and every fight from this card. And you know that if you've been around, if you are new to the stream, that's what we're doing around here. And if you have anything that you want to talk about that's not pertaining to the fights that we're talking about at the time, throw it in the chat. We can come back to it at a later time in the stream, especially today, because we will be briefly looking over the upcoming numbered event. But we do not have fights this coming weekend, so the next episode of the show will be a next week's fights where we'll go over all of those fights in depth. So we're just doing this one tonight, doing a little quick preview, and we'll call it a show. So that being said, I guess we already kind of talked about it a little bit. So, what were your more in-depth thoughts about the on-paper elements of this thing? I mean, I guess besides the main event and the co-main, were there any other fights that you were like really looking forward to? I guess maybe the Paddy Pimblett, the proteges or these people that Paddy trains with was kind of interesting to me. But was there anything jumping off the page at you besides those?
I think there was a few. I think there was a few, other than the co-main and the main, of course, that have implications.
Mm-hmm.
Jack Hermanson and Miktebek Orbai, right off the bat, there was just too
Sure.
many things surrounding it that made it not, a spectacle of a matchup. So I'm excited to talk about that one, of course. And then we had Big Waldo. I think these are two things that we will get to. These are just a little foreshadow moments of people that I have a lot to say about. So there you go.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, I mean, you make a good point with both of those, and it's good that we talked about them ahead of time. You kind of gave me a good understanding of the lay of the land, at least with the Hermanson and Orlabai fight. Waldo, I believe, came much later, and we'll talk about that when we talk about that fight. So, yeah, a couple interesting things from this card. Of course, I do believe that this, I think, is the first time that they'd ever been to Qatar. I want to say, I think that they were
Mhm.
saying it's history making that they were in Qatar. Qatari audience, I would say, was kind of in line with what we've seen from the region. Not overly expressive, in the crowd. I guess is what I'm trying to say. Maybe a little bit. Not very boisterous. I guess there were some really choice moments where the crowd was into it, of course, and you could definitely tell that they were enjoying it. But like, the crowds that I'm talking about when it comes to like Brazil and France even has good crowds like that, and around the United States and stuff, they get real hype.
What I will say about this crowd is yeah, I do agree. I think it was the first time they went to Qatar, and you could tell. because the stars showed out, especially in the sport of mixed martial arts. We had a lot of people in the crowd that wanted to be a part of the first event in Qatar. Normally we see, our hand picked people. You'll get a Diego Lopez over there. You'll get a whatever over here. But at this card, it definitely seemed like the people who knew what this could mean, like the UFC being very expansive to the world, like we showed up to Qatar for the first time, they realized that this was a big moment. So I thought that was pretty cool to see.
Yeah, I did too. I did too. I did not particularly enjoy seeing Lazy Boy with his very big red lips, which I mean, I was talking on the watch along with Vitz King about that, and we were of the mindset that he was wearing some kind of lipstick. I mean, like unless that dude just has the reddest lips on planet Earth naturally, that just seemed very strange.
There's definitely another crowd moment that I want to get to, but I think it's better to wait till we talk about the context of it.
All
So
right, well, you know what? Then why don't we just get started talking about this card, and we'll get to it as we get to it.
before we do that, we're gonna go
Sure,
ahead and shout out the chat really quick. I want to
absolutely.
give a special shout out to my boy Beeb, of course. We're sending some real support over there, man. I know everything's tough for you right now, and then of course KK and Michael. You guys are awesome as well. Appreciate
Appreciate
everybody
you
for being
guys.
here.
Yes, absolutely appreciate you guys. Thank you very much as always, and much love to you, B. Appreciate that. Appreciate you checking in early on the Warrior review as
Oh
well.
yeah, and Rick Allen's two dads. Forgot them.
Really the underrepresented MVPs, if you really think about it. Oh, and TJF coming in. Appreciate you as well, brother. Good to see you.
W W.
Dubs
Oh,
indeed.
Notorious. Yeah, let's
Man,
go.
you
Everybody
know,
showing out.
yeah, for real, popping up left and right. Appreciate y'all. We will get to the co-main event in due time, but we're starting off this card with this
Banger.
electric, yes, just electrifying first fight of the evening. This was how do you say his last name? Was it Budlo? I think it was. He's a Polish guy, but I think
I
it's
ain't
Marek.
gonna need to remember it,
Yeah,
dude.
yeah, for real, right? Marek, I think it's Bujlo. Marek Bujlo versus Denzel Freeman was the first fight of the evening. One thing that I wanted to note before we got into the actual nuts and bolts of the fight was that Freeman's nickname is Luke Fox. I legitimately thought they had said Loot Box as his nickname, which I thought was pretty funny. But we all know that his nickname should actually be Carl Winslow. I don't know if you remember Family Matters, but that's what me and Vitz were going with.
So, two things. One,
Yes.
if his nickname was Loot Box, it was full of all common and gray loot. I'm telling you, there was nothing, no rarity to the
Bad
item
spin.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that one's horrible. Also, I remember saying, man, Will Smith's uncle is fucking ass in this fight, bro. Like,
Yo,
Jesus Christ. Like,
Uncle
oh,
Phil.
dude. Yeah, so that was really bad. I mean, just to start, yeah, the problem with this, and I understand it's the commentary's job, but you could tell this fight specifically, they'd never seen these people before, and they just have to act like that. Watch it on the regional scene. This Denzel guy, this Freeman, he's got a really good left high kick, and he did. I'll give him that. He had one. He did do it once, never again, and never did it again. So they were really trying to glaze them so hard. They were trying to amp them up. Like, they were really trying to make them believe. Like, I know this is different than the Apex where you could literally hear the commentary, but like, the commentary was trying hard to make it seem like we were watching something good here. And even at a point, like, they stopped. They were like, yeah, these guys, they need to do something. Like, I mean, you can't go 3 rounds and doing nothing. There was a funny point about Merrick. I talked about Denzel and his one high kick. Merrick, or however you say this guy's name, he threw like an axe kick at one point, and like, it was like a good kick. I was like, holy shit, okay, he's gonna do some stuff now. And even the commentary bought in. They're like, okay, he's open, he's getting a little more confidence. Never saw anything like that again. They just stood in front of each other. They genuinely, and I know I've probably said this before, and I don't mean to be hyperbolic when I say this about some of these fights. This is one of the worst fights ever in the UFC organization. I mean, because it's not even a fight. Like, that's the problem. It's like, this was not even a competition when it comes to, like, I mean, both of them, more than half of their strikes were leg kicks. Like, and that's for both parties in this. And like, that's just not good at all. Like, I don't
Yeah.
know.
I wish that I could remember the exact quote from Bisbing because it actually was a really good bar, but he was saying something. I forget. It was, take your pick about who it was about, but it was like
Yeah.
he basically was saying something along the lines of, oh, that like when he's in training, like, he can really, like, he can go for it, like he'll go, and I would really like to see him go in this fight right now. Like it
Yeah.
was like it got to that point where he, like, it's like you said, you kind of have, like, when you get through 2 rounds of absolutely nothing, which is really what you had in this fight. Like there really was not. I mean, even in the third round when they finally turned up, quote unquote, it wasn't that. But like when you have 2 rounds of it, like the commentary team can only hide their disdain for it for so long. And I do understand that. I mean, what I said in that first round was that there was the most significant strike of the first round was a late spinning kick by Freeman that got stuck in Budlow's stomach fat. Then that's a legit thing. If you go back and watch it, I'm not even. I'm not memeing right now. Really, if you go back, it's at the very end of the round. He goes for a kick. It's actually a similar kick to the one that Ian Gary had thrown, where like he was basically at too close range. So he was trying to go for a spinning kick, but his leg couldn't extend because he was too close for it, and he literally just like hooked this dude's stomach. So it's you got that. You had patty cake throughout the second round. I was like, these dudes are sitting here, hand jiving with each other. They're dancing out there. Very much a staring contest for a lot of this fight.
There was a couple things that made me upset. One, Denzel Freeman, halfway through the second round, in his terms of gaining confidence, was the and like he just kept doing it, and it did not help his, like, it did not make him better, did not help him. And the commentary is like, some people do that in training. That's how they do it. I even had people in the Discord. That's how some people train. They do that. It's like, well, he's not fucking training right now, and he's not doing anything either. So how would I not have to hear him do the woman tennis grunt?
And
Like,
I was just gonna. That's so funny you say that too, because I was like, who does that in fights often? The
women.
women, yeah, the
Yes,
women.
I said
So,
the exact same thing. I typed it out. I said he's doing the shit that women do. Like, and he's not doing anything with it. Like, that's the problem. And then
right.
that's the first issue. Second issue, he's dancing after the fight.
Oh, I was going to say that. I was like, this dude really has a lot of nerve to be out there Irish jigging after this fight, after that amazing performance. Dude really set the cage on fire with that and is out there, cutting a rug right now. Like everybody should really be getting behind this. I was very glad. I mean, you didn't think that they were going to, I know, but like I was definitely glad that they did not go in for the interview. Like, cut that and just keep moving.
To be fair, I mean, with how he looked, they should have read the room and been like, he might drop some Fresh Prince knowledge here. Like, this is some good stuff from Freeman, but I don't think it was gonna come. I mean, this dude, I after the second round, genuinely, again, don't mean to be hyperbolic. I said, just call it a draw. Don't give us a third round. Like, and I know that's just like not what can happen, but there needs to be something that can happen for fights like these. There it's always like, oh, there's always a third round, and even if you tried to play it off, like even the round where they quote unquote turned up, it's like, no, they still did nothing. They still did nothing. You could have erased the second and third round. After the first round, if I see that again, dude, I gotta turn it off. Like, because what I think is also so funny about this, and this is key to what happened during the event, which is kind of funny. I know I talked about it a little bit with you in the Discord. Is the UFC accidentally was streaming this event to YouTube?
True.
If you were out there and you were wondering if you were getting a glimpse of history, you got to watch the worst fight of all time for free on YouTube, streamed by the UFC. And whatever the case may be of why that happened, who knew in that booth, they were like, we can't have people pay for this shit. Just fucking throw it out there for free. Because how did they get onto this card? How did they end up here?
Well, I mean, really, I think what it is, there are two things. One, what happened there with the UFC streaming it, just for anybody who's not aware, because I did think it was kind of funny. If you saw on the stream what the name was, it said CID on it.
Hmm.
They stream the events to YouTube in real time so that the content ID system can get the audio and video of it, so that if people are illegally streaming it or using clips and stuff, that it's ingested into the system and somebody just toggled the wrong switch or something like that. So that's just that. But I did think that was kind of funny. Fat fingers, even $7.7 billion corporations are run by people and they make mistakes. Uh,
Not
yeah.
to interject
No,
before
no,
you
go ahead.
finish your
Sure.
thought, takes me back to the time where we were watching the UFC replays. When the UFC doesn't have cards, they'll replay events on their YouTube channel.
Yeah.
And there was one event where they just started it halfway through and didn't realize until like 3 fights later, and then restarted the event and just never said anything about it. And it's
Yeah.
like,
Turned a 4 hour or 5 hour event into a 7 hour event, basically, by, like, just repeating. Yeah, that was, oh, good. Yeah, I do remember that too. Yeah,
yeah,
it was funny that was the one that we decided that we were like, we're gonna watch the replay, and yeah, okay, anyway. But
of course. But
so there was that. But so anyway, back to the fight though. The reason that these guys are here goes back to the same thing that we've been saying and the same problems that the UFC has been having. They are trying desperately to inject life into the heavyweight division, and it's just a no man's land. I mean, like, you see what you're getting over here. That we are going to see Josh Hokett become a legitimate title contender at some point here. Gable Stevenson or whatever, Gable Stevenson got another knockout outside of the organization. Everybody's talking about how he's next up. This is next up. Gable Stevenson is next up. I mean, like, granted, he is doing pretty well and he is a wrestler, so he does have the qualifications that the UFC is currently looking for. He's a little bit more well-rounded than a guy who's just going to go out there and do this, or just, be like a big meaty hook merchant kind of guy. He's a little bit more skilled than that, so he does fit the bill. But my point is that it's this what we're talking about in this fight, and that's just currently what you have outside of what's already in the rankings. So get ready for more of this, is I guess what I'm trying to say.
yeah, I agree. I mean, the heavyweight, if this is what is to come in the future, more of these, abolish, make them
I
cut to light heavyweight. I'm done. I'm done with it if we get another one of these.
I mean, and it just, pertaining to the fight, Anakin, shout out to Anakin always, but coming through with the bar. Yes, if this was a Contender Series fight, no one would have been signed.
Yeah, true. And then they would also get roasted by Dana. And
Yeah,
that's even the worst part of it too.
they should have. I mean, he's probably was roasting himself backstage in Qatar.
Yeah,
So
100%. I mean, yeah, there's just nothing here. Thankfully, it was the first one because, like I said, after the first 2 fights, and we'll get to the stipulations about the second one, but this fight specifically, thankfully, it happened first because the rest of the card that was only up from here.
yeah, well, and I mean, I definitely am interested to hear your thoughts on the second one here. Yeah, I mean, that is all that there is to say about this first one. Freeman
Yeah.
won the fight. We'll see if he comes back. We'll definitely will not see Merrick back. But Freeman, maybe they'll give another shot to. Who knows what happens there? We'll see what happens. But next up, I'm curious why you're framing this way. This is Nurullo Aliyev versus Shamrock. Now, I just before you get into it, because I do want to hear all your thoughts on it, but I did want to note this because this was just perplexing to me from the broadcast. So Shamrock, the Englishman, is one of Paddy Pimblett's, again, his products, his proteges, teammates, whatever you want to call it. Shamrock was, quote unquote, on the run for a crime he didn't commit, fled to Thailand, got into martial arts at that time, came back to England, did time. So did he do the crime? Did he not do the crime? What was the crime? Why is this all being told to me on the broadcast? There is some information about Shamrock that we did not get, and the information we did get was Swiss cheese. So I just wanted to put that out there, that there might be more to the Shamrock story than what we currently know, but that is what we got off of the broadcast. I guess I'll have to do some more research about the rest. That being said, your thoughts, Jim?
My thoughts on this fight, why I did not love this one. One is because the hype that Patty's mates came in here with. I mean, we were supposed to believe that there was some legit threats entering the divisions, right? Shamrock was the first example here. Now you have Aliyev, who is a wrestler. This is the Eagle. This is the Tajiki Habibi, whatever they called him. So
yes, he is the Tajik Eagle.
yes, this is a guy who is a wrestler, chose to strike with Shamrock, and damn near whooped his ass.
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
say
and
looked pretty good.
he looked really good on the feet, and that should just question how good this Shamrock dude is on the feet. And people be like, "Whoa, he's a grappler, he's a jujitsu guy. Don't worry." I was like, "Well, okay." I saw Aliyev, who was supposed to be the wrestler, make some really poor decisions in the grappling, where Shamrock ended up in dominant positions, but Shamrock also just lost those positions immediately right after. There was a point where Shamrock got full mount on Aliyev in the third round, immediately gives it up. And Bisping, this is how you know it's bad, because the commentary has to, Bisping is just like, you had him like, you got to get him right. You got to get him back to where you just had him. It's like, dude, you had him in the most dominant position in the game. You don't
Yeah.
let people up from full mount. You don't just let them up. Like he got up, and it's not get him back to it. It's like you got to figure something else out. Because clearly that didn't fucking work. Like
Didn't land a single strike in that full mount, by the way.
and Aliev, I mean, again, this is supposed to be the Eagle. He should have been able to maul him in the wrestling from what I'm seeing from Shamrock's game on the ground. And then in the striking department is he had way too much confidence against Shamrock and it was working. I just don't think this I think this is going to be a false sense of ability for the Tajiki because he's going to come in here thinking he can strike now. And I feel like he's going to get, dude, lightweight too. I actually thought this was bantamweight for, I'm not even going to lie to you. If Aliev is, this is lightweight, that is crazy. This dude is, uh, if the grappling wasn't good enough to keep this dude from getting dominant positions on him, and then the striking is him bombing him. The Shamrock is getting bombed with the same strike over and over again. That's just not something that I think a quality UFC talent is like not gonna pick up on. Like genuinely, how are you not get like you've been rocked like 4 times? Get the hand up, dude. Start blocking something. And this is again not a striker. This is a wrestler who his best game plan didn't work on the dude that I don't think is very good. That's why I'm not really too high on this matchup because it's not a good gauge of what either of these dudes are going to do going forward. Is Shamrock going to be a dominant grappler because he had moments where he got good positions against Aliev? Probably not because he wasn't able to do anything with them or create some sort of momentum in his favor. Is Aliev going to be good going forward after this? I don't know because all he did was destroy a dude on the feet who's not very good if the wrestler was able to destroy him on the feet. So I just think we got a false sense of hope for Aliev, in my opinion. 11-0 is good, but at lightweight, now that I am truly seeing that this is a guy in the 155-pound division, I'm not seeing it. I'm just not seeing it, guys.
I mean, fair. What I would say to that is that you might just be seeing the evolution of a young fighter who is now starting to put the pieces together in a department that he wasn't as skilled in before. I mean, Aliev, yeah, I mean, there were some criticizable things with the earlier rounds, but you can't say that they weren't pretty dominant overall. Now, yeah, going back to what you're saying about Shamrock, really, I mean, like, what I think that Shamrock did well is just be tough. I mean, it's an unfortunate note to have when the object is to not just be tough, but to win. I call that the Felicia Spencer. You can't just be a tough punching bag out there. You got to go and win the fight. But I think that he definitely was able to take a lot of decent shots from Aliev, who had a pretty like a good pace to him and a good mixing up of what he was doing. I thought that the pressure into the strike, into the clinch, and then the strike, the pressure, like he really just kind of kept a rhythm about him until he started to gas out a little bit in the third, and that's when Shamrock had a little bit of success there. I mean, I think that that's what we saw. Cardio was there for Aliev in the first rounds, kept that brisk pace, started to slow a little bit down in the third, and that's where Shem had his success. So I mean, what I would think is that if you can, what it really comes down to is that if Aliev can repeat that, if he can have decent success. Now, like you said, lightweight is a terrible division to try to be doing that in with the type of strikers that are in that division, but young guy representing an entire country. He himself, the Tajiki representative, fills stadiums in his country, Chase. So, he's got a lot riding on his success outside of just him himself. So I think that maybe you're just seeing new skills that you didn't see before.
I would love to be wrong. Again, lightweight is going to be tough, but one thing, you're talking about Shamrock being tough and taking shots. When the commentary pulls out the Scousers don't get knocked out, guys. Yeah, he's been getting punched in the face like 17 times. Like I've literally seen him getting wobbled by the wrestler. Don't tell me the Scousers don't get knocked out. How about they don't play defense, dude? Like
Right.
what the frick? Yeah,
I'm with you on that.
it was just annoying and Aliev, everybody can look good when the opponent does nothing. Like that's what I'm sitting here thinking after this fight. 30-27 for every round where I was like, we're seeing two different skill levels, yes, but I don't think the skill level that I'm seeing out of Aliev, like for somebody who I'm like, when I see Shamrock and the way that I'm talking about him, a great fighter would have finished somebody like that. I mean, this dude wasn't checking any of these punches like any good lightweight fight. Ilya, dude, I mean, like you got to look at the champ. Anytime you think about how good somebody is, compare them to what the current champ is. I mean, I know that is an evolved version of the fighters, but like, what are these guys aspiring to be? They want to be better than the champ. So you have to show that there's potential for that. And if Aliev is getting all these clean strikes off on Shamrock, I mean, I don't care how tough he is. He was hitting him right on the button, like every time. So the power or the accuracy seemed to be there. The power may not be there. Shamrock, if you want to give him the Scouser nod, okay. But Aliev, him walking forward and punching this dude, not real. I mean, 1 for 5 on takedowns. Like, this is supposed to be the eagle. Like, I don't know, guys. Like, just my
And
opinion.
I mean, fair enough. And again, it's hard to say based on where he is in his career. And not everybody who becomes great is going to show that level of greatness immediately. I mean,
I
he's
agree.
3 fights in the UFC now. So I mean, he's won all of his fights, still undefeated. So Aliyev certainly, I saw enough good things in this fight that I was like, good. I'll remember Aliyev is a good fighter. I picked him in this fight specifically off of remembering from previous performances, and now we're seeing something new out of him in the striking. So until I see specifically that like it starts to become a problem with like higher level talent that he's facing, then then maybe the conversation changes. And this certainly was not a great barometer of that. I would say definitely is true. The 30-27 as you're describing it, all tracks. I mean, the Shamrock should have. What I go back to with a fight like this is that where is the adjustments? You have Paddy Pimblett in your corner. He's cornering you literally. He's there with you. You have your team that has taken Paddy to the heights that he's gotten to. Where are the adjustments? Like, I mean, I guess you can say in the third he started to have a little bit more success when he was able to finally get him down. Immediately gets reversed. It's like not enough of an adjustment, maybe not early enough. I don't know. Either way, the navigation of this fight was poor on Shem's side. I think that he might have even been a little bit too confident in his toughness. You know what I mean? Like he takes a whole bunch of shots. You got to give him back too, brother.
I think the most stressful thing about this one, and I just thought about it because I was looking at the stats. The one submission attempt from Aliev is he had a fully locked in ninja choke and just let it go. And I like when I saw that, I'm like, what the fuck are you doing, mate? Like, you had the opportunity to not to just to win, but like to at least make him think like something's coming. Like, you literally had everything tucked. You had the whole choke in there, and he just lets it go and just gets back to the striking. It's the one point where I thought it's over. Good. Finally, we're gonna do something and not just play around for 2 more rounds. But that one really stressed me out. I'm not gonna lie. Why didn't he want to finish that choke there? I don't know. I really don't know because there's only we saw in the main event what somebody has to do to get out of one of these fucking chokes like this. So Shamrock probably wasn't going to, but the fact Aliev just lackadaisically let it go because we got another round. I'm winning. I'll just win. Just kind of stressed me out just a little bit. But either way, good performance. Just for somebody that is, if I'm expecting great things from him, the Shamrock should have been finished. That's all that I'm saying here.
Fair. Yeah, I do think that that's a fair assessment. I mean, based on the dominance in those first 2 rounds, especially, like, by round 3, you're starting to fade a little bit. Not terribly, though. I mean, his cardio still seemed to be holding up decently enough. Like, he could make it through and navigate effectively enough to not let that round slip. Obviously, 30-27s across the board. But in those early rounds when he was really putting a lot out there, you want the power to be able to drop him. I mean, you want to be able to get that to the finish. And of course, we're going to talk about optics a couple of times on this card. The next fight coming up is one of them. Sometimes when you're in these fights that are not being finished, the optics can come back to bite you. Didn't come back to bite Aliyev here, but certainly could in other circumstances. And as he goes forward against different opponents, it's definitely going to be something to be concerned about.
Well, there's just 2 other things that I want to note about this one is that before the fight was over, Aliev decided to take a running lap and raise his hands. Like, okay, sure. I mean, you are up, but with the last remaining 3 seconds, I mean, let's at least have a good visual rather than you raising your fucking hands and running around the cage. That's one thing that I'll say. The second one is Aliev tried to bring his flag out, and the UFC security snatched that shit out of his hands. Did not.
Really
Yeah, they did not let him pull
interesting.
that one. So
Interesting. Yes. Well, we've had a lot of weirdness with flags in the past. In fact, actually, if you noticed, I wasn't even going to say it, but now that you mentioned it, it reminded me. Shem didn't come out to a flag. He had the gray no nation dealy going on there, and I don't know if that was his choice or if there's a deeper story back there. But this guy obviously has a backstory that is kind of nebulous right now, and I'd like to know more about it. So if he sticks around, maybe we'll find out more details. But yeah, I picked up on that he, we obviously know he's training out of England. He's training out of Liverpool, and it did not have the English flag.
Yeah, that is interesting. But when you've been on the run for 10 years from England, why would you want to have a flag in their court?
What
They put
is
you
the
in prison
story?
for, yeah, you didn't even commit the crime and you were on the run. Normally people who don't commit crimes don't go on the run. But
Well,
I
that's what I'm saying. So that was my point in the way that I framed it is that he was on the run for a crime he quote unquote did not commit, came
allegedly.
allegedly came back to England and then did time. So I don't know if he did time for a different crime or if he did time for that crime wrongly or if there's more to the story. I have no idea what's going on with all of that, but it certainly sounded like a movie plot, you know?
It genuinely does sound like he showed back up to England and they had the wanted posters with his face on it still, because how do you come back and they're like, it must have been some heinous crime if they're like, we need him to fucking go to jail, bro. Like, I don't care if he did 10 years away. No, 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 no. He's going down. And then if it's like just some that dude that looks like him, like, isn't that weird? Like, where are the lawyers in England? This is what I'm questioning. Who was not able to get Shamrock a case here? Because if he didn't do where this is
That's
just,
there are so many questions is what I'm trying to say with this. Like the way that they were describing it, they gave us just enough information to confuse the hell out of me.
hmm hmm
So we'll find out, I guess, if he sticks around. I mean, I guess that's the question because what I had said on the watch along was I thought that with the toughness specifically, that I didn't think that this should be a performance that would immediately kick Shem out of the organization. But the way that you're talking about it, it might be reframing that
no,
a little bit.
no, no, no. I agree with what you're saying. For being a tough fighter, there is at least room for 2 to 3 fights on a contract for those type of fight. I mean, if you are 0-3 in the organization, I mean,
Right.
you can be as tough as you want, but like you're just not at the top of the level, Reese McKee is somebody who's a good example of that. Like literally never wins in the organization unless it's a fucking debut like person. It's like we're handpicking people to keep you around. That could be Shamrock if he's got big enough if people in the UK or if he gets big enough headlines with his little story, I mean, they could keep him around for 2 to 3 more fights. But I listen, he potentially could win. I'm just saying he's going to need a real hand-picked opponent because from what I saw, this is not going to surprise me if he goes 0-2 and leaves the UFC or something like that. It it's just kind of how it goes sometimes. You can be as tough as you want. Irina Alekseeva is a very tough female.
Sure.
She's just not good.
Right.
So we
Right.
can't
Yeah.
have her in the UFC. This is the pinnacle of the sport. If she's not going to be the best of the best, there are other places for her to go. That's just like, the door's there. Take your bags now and you can go. We don't have to kick you out. It would just be really nice if you would leave before we have to, I don't know.
Sure. Yeah. No. And shout out to CTE making a great point that if Cicada got 3 fights, this guy certainly deserves another shot at it. And we'll
We will
definitely
talk
talk.
about that.
Won't we talk about him? Trust that. But yeah, I mean, in for this one, like I said, good performance for Aliev. Nice to see that if he is primarily a wrestler, that we're seeing more striking out of him. Maybe this is the birth of a new, well-rounded version of him that just needs to get a little bit stronger, a little bit better, and place the shots in a way that'll get the finish. I was okay with it.
What I think Aliev needs, and this is coming straight from me,
Hmm.
he just needs a little TLC coming from this area. And you know what? I'll stick with it, guys. I will be a little less hard on Aliev because I agree. It wasn't the worst fight ever, and it was a dominant performance. I mean, after the first fight, I mean, I think every fight coming after that is going to have me thinking I'm watching bullshit. But this right here wasn't the worst fight. I think Shamrock was just way out. He was outmanned, outgunned. There ain't nothing else to it. So good performance by Aliev. I will give a little leeway, but for the next time I see him, I'm ready to be a little more impressed than you whooping up on a dude that probably shouldn't be in the UFC. So
I think that that's very fair, and that's a very positive way to close out the description of that fight, to talk
There we
about that
go.
fight. So good
Now,
deal.
now we get into some fun stuff.
Oh, yes, indeed. This is Ismail Nardiev versus the dyslexic king, Ryan Loder. Nardiev coming in with the Puerto Rican blowout. First note in in the notes, just the hair pulled back. Me and Vitz both transported right back to high school with the hairstyle. I was like, okay, bro's coming in. I was half expecting him to walk out to some reggaeton, but still, this dude came in there, did the damn thing without having to be a scumbag this time, Chase.
Speaking of the hair, we should get into this first because a lot of people they were like, what is he doing with his hair? And a lot of people may not understand. Curly hair is poofy. I when I saw that, that was normal to me. Like that's how I wear my hair when it's getting to that certain length, and I got to wear a headband, and it's a little poofy. It looks. Listen, it wasn't anything to me. I've been there. Nerdiev, shout out to you for being able to rock a headband in a UFC fight
Uh,
without them being able to catch you.
and I'm telling you, yeah, that was I was thinking about that aspect of it for sure. Like I think it was one of those ones that's like
It's
the
a cork. It's a corkscrew one.
yeah, like that. Or they have also ones that are like it's I don't there's a name for it, I'm sure, but it's like they're like sawtooth almost, and like they
Hmm.
kind of like they have a little clasp and then it clips and you kind of like pull it back with that. But I'm telling you, I mean, like this the style was very reminiscent of the blowouts that were very common when me and Vitz were in high school. So I was like, I think they have gone out of style. I'm sure that they have, but it transported me right back there. So I was like,
Yeah.
hey, A plus for me.
Well,
Had one myself for a while.
yeah. So other than the hairstyle, what Nardiev did was prove to me that well, one, Ryan Loder sucks, but Nerdiev is he's a very good striker. He's very I'm trying to think of the way it is technical, but it's also he does good at setting traps. So when you watch the way that he knocked out Ryan Loder, and he set it up with a body punch, but it wasn't as if he was committing to the body punch, and that's exactly what was good about it. Is he disguised this overhand, this crazy bomb that Ryan Loder took to the fucking jaw. He disguised it with a very well placed body shot, but he it was good because let me try to explain it. He with the with his body looked like he was going with the jab, but all of his momentum was coming with the overhand. So it was perfectly placed, but the power was just it was utilized well. It wasn't all in the jab; it was all with the overhand, and that's where Ryan Loder he swiped his hands down, and then the punch comes over top. And what's crazy about this? This guy's nickname is Man of Steel. I've seen him chinned 2 times already in the UFC. Jeff Neal, Michael Chandler, Iron, Steel, these things make sense. Superman, Ryan Loder, it is time the mantle, retire it. Just get it over with. You are no longer. I mean, you probably never were. I guess I don't know. 8-3. We can't really be throwing out names like this. We got to be calling them something a little more feeble until we realize they can take a lot of damage.
Well, I mean, his chin is just not fit for this business based on what we've seen out of him at this point. Man, I hate to say it, he seems like a nice enough guy. Obviously, we talk about his dyslexia, but whatever the case may be there, nothing wrong with him as a person, but it's just, you can't be getting knocked out like this. I mean, like the note that I had was that Loder should just never strike, like immediately hit the blast double. And that's it. Just like,
Yeah.
we know that you're a wrestler, that you're a wrestler. I mean, like that was what got you into the organization. We saw it on the Ultimate Fighter. I mean, that's how you did that, was by wrestling, and pretty much just that. And anytime that we've ever seen this guy strike, it has been a disaster. And I mean, I'm really not trying to dogpile on him too badly, but these are the facts here. I mean, this is certainly a good proof of it. And the way that you're talking about the setup of it, I mean, granted, it was nicely put together by Nardiev, so like that should be where the credit is placed. But really also, the fact is that this dude, like, his hands were so low at the time based on him doing that swipe. He, at one point in this fight, I remember he actually grabbed Nardiev's glove, and Nardiev kind of had to like shake his hand off of it. I mean, like, bro, you're leaving your chin open widely when you're doing that. He could have come over top with the other hand and like got a free shot off of that. So like, it's just things like that that lead to what we ended up with this fight. And I mean, it just all is adding up to, bro, your striking is just, you're not a conscious enough striker, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
I think what's also interesting to note is sometimes, this dude, when he's getting introduced, he was a little too lax. He was having a little too much fun. Like, bro, you just got knocked out in your last fight. You have yet to win in the organization. Put on a good performance. Fuck you out here having a good time with Bruce Buffer. Like, come on. Like, I know everybody has their moment. Bruce Buffer, they want to get hype and yell their name with him. It's like, if you get knocked out in the first fucking exchange, how about let's not do that? Let's not, because that happened the last fight too. You literally got taken down and smashed, and now you've been out for 6 months. Now you come back in here all happy and lackadaisical, and then you get fucking flatlined again. I mean, you can have all the fun you want, but like, I'm supposed to believe, and this is what irritates me too about the organization, about the UFC in general, the Ultimate Fighter. That sounds like the coolest title that you can have as a fighter.
Right.
That should be reserved for super talent in this sport. I mean, the Ultimate Fighter, UFC champion, the Ultimate Fighter. You know, but when we have guys that are literally contender series guys like that, when it comes to the title of what these guys are and the skill behind what they represent, the Ultimate Fighters, this is what they are. Like, they're
Yeah.
first round flare outs. Like, holy shit.
I
Like,
know you've been making that point recently, and time again you've been proven correct with this, especially recently. It seems like the status of the Ultimate Fighter has been diminished greatly. In the Contender Series really is like where the talent is being produced. So now the dynamic is all different, and then the title doesn't help. Also, to your point too, him coming out and being a little bit too lax and whatnot, we literally have been seeing just recently the UFC. This is the time of the year when they start cleaning house. I for some reason just have it in my mind as the example of it because it was so surprising to me. 2-2 Yanal Ashmuz gets cut. Now, granted, different styles, all of that kind of stuff. But my point is that the guy probably did not deserve to get cut. He still got cut anyway. You go out there and get knocked out twice in a row now and have not won in the organization, period. You are asking for your walking papers at this point, brother. Like, I mean, you should be taking these fights with the level of seriousness that they deserve because you're fighting for your job right now.
yeah. And it goes back to the Ultimate Fighter thing. It's like, if you are going to be labeled the Ultimate Fighter, I genuinely better think like, this is some dude, this is some fucking talent right here. I shouldn't just think this is a guy who got an opportunity that doesn't really matter, because once he goes up against people that have been in the organization already, they get knocked out in the first round. Like, I mean, Nardiev, again, this is like a dude who like goes to decision with most people, and then he just chins you in round one. I mean, come
Or,
on.
or he pulls a whole bunch of illegal moves and
you
yeah.
know, but other than him, actually, and I actually do want to make this point. Other than him, because you seem to be really hung up on the dirt ball stuff. I see in that last fight. Some fighters, they just be trying to fight. Fuck it. Anyway, Nerdiev and a lot of other
That's a nice way to
Moroccan.
dismiss it, by the way. I like that. Like, hey, yeah, boys will be boys.
Yeah, and so Nardiev, along with a lot of other Moroccan fighters, in my personal opinion, with a small representative group, I think that they have shown that they are very, very skillful, and not only skillful, they're gritty. They are some people they will go to war. The Rahiki from Contender Series is a good example.
Sure.
As much as I want to hate it, at worst, Moroccans, they have Zalal, who I would just hate watch winning. Like, that's the worst that they have right now, is a winner who has people that don't like watching them. I know Nasrat Hakparas just took a dot. I know, unfortunate for that, but He's fine. Like, he's a good ass fighter. Other than that, I mean, what can you do? You get sent to the shadow realm. If he would have been conscious in some way, he probably would have continued fighting. I've seen a lot worse from that dude. So I would just like to point out that Morocco, for as small as they come, like, we're like 4 for 4 on them. Like, they are really fucking solid.
Yeah, I think that that's a great assessment of it, honestly. And these countries that are less represented currently have a good representation that ends up perpetuating the sport even more in those countries. So keep an eye out on Morocco. I mean, there might be more talent coming based on what you already got, and that's how the sport grows. That's why whenever anybody, a little small side note, but why anybody when they get on India, and I know that there's a lot of other reasons why that's the case, but when they get on the Indian fighters, what I'm always saying is that, like, yeah, you might not have the absolute top pinnacle of the sport just yet in the crop that you have currently, but these are the pioneers for that country that end up making it so that the next generation comes up underneath them. So, always whenever you have people that are like the sole representative of a country, I want to throw a little bit of support to them. Not in this case, of course, but you know what I'm talking about. Anytime that underrepresented countries are being represented, I think that it's for the betterment of the sport in the big picture.
100%. Yeah.
So good deal for Morocco here. Although unfortunate in that regard, because during Nardiev's post-fight interview and his Octagon interview, he was shouting out the king of Morocco and giving him all this glowing praise, and then the broadcast cut out for a little minute.
Yeah, broadcast accidentally falls out of the satellite just didn't pick that part up. That is interesting. We had one other incident that happened with it. I can't remember off rip, but we definitely had some broadcast cutouts when people started talking.
Yeah.
I brought up with with Aliev, they took the flag from him. They what damage control. That's what we're trying to protect a lot of things here.
This is the interest. It's one of the deeper, interesting elements of the sport in general, being as international as it is that you're on an international stage always. You're in a country that is, within a region that there's a lot of different socio-political things going on at all times. Who knows what is okay for some people in power, and these people don't want to hear it. You can say this, you can represent this is not okay, etc., etc. But let's just at least try to believe. We'll keep the kayfabe going and say that it was literally just broadcast difficulties, but who really knows at this point? Cash Patel, maybe he knows.
Yeah, true, 100%.
Anyway, but good deal for Nardiev here. I mean, really solid knockout. Loader prone to being knocked out. So good deal that he was able to get a nice highlight off of that. And Loader really is probably shaking in his boots right now if he's awake.
No, he's probably sitting there having a good time. He seems like the type of dude that is still hanging his head high. Like, man, I did my best. I did whatever I could. It's like, well, you should have had a little more determination. And I'm not going to say you should have tried harder, but at least make it seem like to me that if I saw your social media post if I saw your story tomorrow, it better say, my bad, guys. I thought I got to do better. Like, don't fucking sit here.
He might end up being one of those guys, though, that like goes out of the organization and for the rest of his life is just like, I was in the UFC, though. You know what I mean?
I won the Ultimate Fighter.
I was the Ultimate Fighter. Like, who can fuck with me? I'm now the greatest car salesman of all time because I was the Ultimate Fighter at one time.
Yeah.
So.
This is God. This Ryan Loader guy. What a season to forget. Would have been one of the most memorable if he wouldn't have beat Robert Valentine. Like, hey, crazy enough.
What a season to forget. That's a bar.
Yeah.
All right. Anyway, let's keep the train moving here. This one is a little bit more, I would say, not controversial is not the right word, but I think that there was definitely a little bit of fuckery afoot here on this one. This was Beksat Almakhan versus Alexandre Pantoja. I always do that. Alexandre Topuria, not Pantoja. Alexandre Topuria.
Listen, here's the main thing about this one. There's just two things to talk about. Beksat Almakhan is a very good first round striker. Very good in the first round at striking, very fast, very elusive. Now, rounds 2 and 3, not so much. If he gets a good competition in the first round, rounds 2 and 3 are not going to look very hot for him. That's what I've decided. That's what I've come to believe. I don't care if he knocked out Bracatona in the first exchange. Listen, the last 2 and 3 rounds that I saw from him, he was doing not very good things. And you know how bad he was doing is because Alexandre Topuria genuinely, genuinely has people batting for him that he's the better Topuria brother. They have people saying this is the better Topuria brother. It's almost as if we have Ilya, but if he was a coach. Like they're blowing this so out of proportion that Topuria is going to be just as good as his brother. Mate, this dude is already fucking lost. He's 7-1. I know Becksat folded. I know he's a fraud. I get that now. I've never been too hot on him in the first place. All his best work done in the first round. We can see that now. It tracks. Alexandre Topuria, though, I do not want to hear any of this Ilya comparison talk because it's not even fucking close. Ilya would have took this dude's fucking head off. I don't care if it's bantamweight compared to lightweight at this point. It's like, dude, this is not Ilya. This is not fucking Ilya. That's all that I would just like to say. And I don't care how smart people want to think he is. It's not about being smart sometimes. Ilya goes in there and takes people from consciousness. That's not what this dude can do. What I said with Toporia's game, one is not it's not about volume. It's not about pace. You know, he walks you down, but it's not like he's putting a pace on him or you can't fucking get your Beckside was doing fine evading for a good amount of time. Topuria, his biggest flaw is he's going to give people too much time to actually figure out what they can do to beat him. You're going to give Beckside did bad in the first, or he did decent in the first round, bad the last 2 and 3. You still gave him 15 minutes to beat you. Like at any point, if you go, I know it's bantamweight, and we don't have people that can just shut this dude's lights out, but like eventually you're going to find out that 15 minutes is too long to give one of these fighters because they're gonna figure it out quick and they're gonna finish you. And it's gonna be a late one. I think is what I'm going for. The first time we see Topuria it's gonna be a late finish from somebody who finally gets it together and they know they can put him. I don't know. It's just Ilya will unalive people, and that's just not what I'm seeing from
Well,
Topuria
no,
here.
yeah, I mean, and I think that was a good catch because you're spitting super facts right now, but you know about Taporia in general. But you're saying like they're like we don't have people at bantamweight who can catch him. We do, we definitely do. They're not yet, but I'm telling that this feeding of this type of fighter to him and the glaze that they are placing on this dude. Commentary was sucking this man off left and right, talking about this basic ass jab of his like this was some kind of magical tool that he was using. Please give me a break with this shit. Like, so there are going to be people that are going to do way better against this guy. I've never been sold on his skill set. And every time that I see him fight, he fights the exact same way. He's great with pressure. I will give him that. But like you're exactly right. He navigates the fight in a way that there are so many openings that if a guy who is not Almacan gets into the fight, they're going to be able to figure him out. He is going to get figured out in a very real way, and no amount of glaze from commentary or bullshit from the judges. There were two 30-27s in the judges' decisions here. This is ridiculous. There is no way in any scope of the imagination that Topuria won that first round. You cannot tell me otherwise. I've watched it 3 times now. There's no way that he won that first round. The only thing that he did, he had a very nice toss. That's true. That toss was definitely cool. But to what end? No damage. Lost full mount off of it. Another time we saw full mount that got no damage from it. I was like, this stand up from Almacan was way more impressive than that toss in the first round. Almacan did fade, and it is completely okay that Topuria won this fight 2-1. I'm okay with all of that, but don't try to sit here and sell me a bill of goods with this guy because it's just not true. It is false.
I'm going to tell you exactly the type of people that will beat Alessandro Taporia. And I think these are warranted names, but I think it's just the style of what they're able to accomplish. So when you look at somebody like Marcus McGee, Peter Yan is another good option. These are people who have a first round that is a feeler. Alessandro Taporia is not going to, he's not going to wear you down in that first, Amakan tired himself out. That's fine. He had a good first round. And then the other two were just like what happened with Umar. It's just him fighting for his fucking life to stay on his, whatever you want to say. I think people like Marcus McGee, Peter Yan, they take that first round, they get a feeler. And then that second round, I mean, the tides will change for somebody like Topuria when we get people who are able to advance on him in the second and third round when he's not the one plodding forward with this, again, with the jab that you're talking about. I mean, this dude, he plot it's a plodding forward walk. Like, it's not like he's just, he's in the mix. Like, when you look at someone like Aaron Pico, he was actually, he's flowing in there. I know he got knocked out, but like, that's somebody who was genuinely doing good on his debut against Lerone Murphy. Arguably was gonna win unless he was getting unalived, which he did. But somebody like that, Taporia literally is just walking forward, does the same dip every time. Somebody's going to catch him. I mean, and there's just too many things that I see with this dude. Like, late in the fight, once he starts, because everybody gets tired, and that's when mistakes are made. I think the mistakes that Taporia are going to make, we see them throughout the fight as it goes on. I mean, like I said, he dips. He doesn't throw many leg kicks, as you see. Almakan was chewing away. I saw the chat just a minute ago. If he wouldn't abandon the leg kicks, there's just too many things that could be done with Taporia, I think. And I'm not going to be the one to buy into the hype yet. I think Ilya is very fucking good. If you want to sit here and say Alexandre is the better brother, you have not been watching who the fuck Ilya Taporia is.
No,
I don't
and I
know.
mean, and it goes right into the whole dynamic that there always is a bitter sibling. Come on, dude. The eye test shows you which the better sibling is, especially now, especially after seeing Alexandre fight a couple of times now. There is no rapid change that is going to happen with all of this that's going to magically make this a reality that they're trying to sell here. In fact, shout out to Justin Michael is super soft saying that it's nepotism. I have in the notes, last name privilege is real right now. This is exactly what this is. They're trying to create a dynamic and a storyline that is absolutely false surrounding this person, and it's just being inflated on all sides with the way that, like I said, I don't know how the judging factors into all of that, but I don't want to go into any kind of speculation on it being underhanded, but things like that. 30-27's there, the commentary going all over this guy, and then just these kinds of fights that he ends up getting matched up with. It is all a narrative that is going to implode upon itself.
One
And
thing I
also, sorry, last one is just CTE making a very good point as well. Anybody Bautista level can beat Taporia. I think that tracks entirely.
I one thing I truly hate, and it's because, listen, certain fighters, they know how to fight. Coaches know how to coach. I know some coaches are bad, some fighters are bad. But I have a problem when fighters go to the extent that they need to be in the corner for these people. Alexandre Taporia is going to regret having Guram Kutateladze as his fucking ringside coach. Like, I mean, I'm not even trying to be like that. I know you want to have your brother. I know you want to have your Georgian friends. There's coaches for a reason. There's fighters for a reason. Guram Kutateladze teaches you nothing. And from the way that we've seen people who train with Ilya, all that Ilya seems to do is show them how he does it and says, that's how you do it. You just do it just like that. Because every one of them that trains with him, they all try to mimic his style, and yet they cannot fucking do it. Because he's the only one that is actually shutting people out with these fucking performances at this point. When you have people that want to fight like Ilya, Alexandre Taporia, Guram Kutateladze, and they fucking suck, I mean, it's a recipe for disaster. Is all that I'm saying. False sense of skill is what we're gaining for these people. And this one right here, I mean, people are going to be really upset when this guy gets mauled, like literally mauled by somebody, because this isn't somebody that I would. He doesn't give you like a gritty personality where it's like, man, I would take that guy over any. I don't care how it would go. He would figure it out. It's like, that's not what I'm seeing here. I'm seeing a guy who's got the confidence that his game is the best on the planet. What he's going to do is going to work because my brother did it. I'm just as good as my brother. I'm even better possibly because everybody, whatever. And then the day that it doesn't work, it's just going to look really fucking bad for him. He's a fucking headhunter. Landed one body shot. Jesus Christ. Like,
Yeah, well, I mean, you're saying people are going to be upset by that? Not me, because I'm seeing it coming from a mile away. It just has to be the right opponent for it, and this is what's going to happen sooner sooner than later. You can only get away with this for so long. That's the other last note that I really have about this what they're doing with this person, because really what happened in the fight is almost secondary to all of this, in my opinion. It was a fine performance based on the dynamics of what we saw. We saw like you described it extremely well. The first round really strong for his opponent, an opponent that wears out over time. So by the third round, he was really pretty well done, and open season for Topuria. That's the gist of the fight. When it comes to what they're doing with this person, Alexandre Topuria, I think that's the bigger part of everything here is what I'm looking at. And you can only get away with this level of puffery for so long. He's going to get up into an echelon where he's going to have opponents who are not this level, who are not this, who are above this in skill. And he's going to either get chinned or he's going to be outworked as far as the cardio goes, especially at bantamweight. These are still small guys. I mean, the cardio is going to be there for a lot of these guys.
Yeah, he's a pretty thick bantamweight too. Honestly, I'm seeing some weight cutting issues in his future. I'm
Could be.
seeing that coming along.
Yeah.
He's and actually, since we're talking about the Topuria brothers, I actually did want to bring it up. There's something about Ilya and his creatine. He's got his own creatine or something. I don't know if it's just a sponsor or if he's like actually in involvement with it's like under him. These dudes, something's going to go on with some tainted supplements, is all that my idea is. Because
Ah.
these dudes, again, everybody thinks they know shit. Now you want to make creatine. Now you want to be buff bros. I'm just saying, when the tests come and we see some tainted supplements, I'm not going to be the one to say that Alexander Topuria is going to be at fault for listening to his fucking brother. But I don't know. That's just my opinion.
Wild speculation on Chase's part, but something to keep in the back of your mind, perhaps. So, anyway, any more on this fight before we move on?
I actually think there's one last thing.
Sure.
I mean, I'm being hard on Alexandre Topuria, and I am hard on this person that I'm going to compare it to because there is also somebody else who went, to a decision with Beksat, who probably could have finished him after the first round, and that's Umar Nurmagomedov. So where do we rank someone like Umar if we think a performance like this from Alexandre is bad against Beksat? I mean, Umar barely did anything fucking different. So.
Yeah, but Umar's
And got dropped in the first round.
fair. I mean, I would say that the difference with Umar is that Umar is a rise to the occasion guy when it's all wrestle and grapple based. Like if you're going to go play that game with him, he will rise to the occasion with that. I mean, and the striking to an extent, but he'll usually try to stay on the outside and evade a lot of that. I think that the difference is that like he will be able to keep up and surpass most of the time, especially if you like when you're getting to the point of him being in 5-rounders, which we've seen now a couple of times. Like he can hold his own well enough, but I mean, he was able to wet blanket his way into the position that he was in. And you also got to remember with him that he jumped a tremendous distance from where he was at after beating Corey Sandhagen. So all of that, what we would have seen in the middle, just got completely negated. There is probably still some exposure for Umar that could be in the future, and we already saw it with the champ. So
True.
Any which way. Yeah, that's all I had on that one. So I guess we can move on. Shout out to Drop at the Top checking in for the first time. Appreciate you, brother. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, I hope you do like it here because, man, I got a lot to say about this next one.
Oh, don't I as well? I mean, I don't have many notes, but I got a lot to say about the fighters. This is Abdul Rahman Yakiaev versus Rafael Sequeira. Sequeira. Pronounced. But yes, Sequeira is a dude who we have seen fight terribly in the past. And this was, I mean, I guess you could say that, maybe we didn't get enough out of Yakiaev on the Contender Series to know that this was going to be coming, but you should have known it based on Sequeira.
That is what everybody is yeah, everybody agrees that Sequeira is one of the worst fighters that we've seen, and not just one of the worst. I mean, this is genuinely a speed run of your UFC career because this is somebody that he got knocked out, and it's not like he took a year off, minimum 6 months. It's like, nah, we just see him again. He's just ready to get knocked out again. Like, who gives a shit? He's got 4 fights on his contract. He might as well lose 3 before trying, So who knows? One thing I want to get into with this, but I don't know if you're not on the social media. Of course, you know who this person is, but I don't know if you know the comparison that I'm about to make because social media has made me very aware. And I think this is only going to enhance the popularity that Abdul Rahman Yakiaev is going to gain. He looks identical to Mr. Beast. Have you caught on to this?
I'm aware enough of I'm very keyed into YouTube. Yes, I know Mr. Beast, and yeah, no, yeah, I can see it. I can see it definitely.
So that is going to be something that elevates him. I mean, this is the Mr. Beast fight. Like that's Mr. Beast's fighting. You know, when you Ariel Hawani, when you look at fucking Ayman Zahabi,
Sure.
it's funny because he looks like Ariel. Mr. Beast, you know, when's the next video coming out? He's fucking too busy fighting, you know, shit like that.
Yep.
Very Turkish Mr. Beast.
CT coming in with exactly the same comment here.
So it's just really funny. I think the popularity level for this guy is gonna be on another level, and the reason I say that is because I think this is potentially the because this is the Turkish Chechenian, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
Uh, I think this is going to be out of the Chechenians that we have. You know, when you have Dulatov, I believe the German Chechenian, and then you have Sursakayev. Now we have Yakyayev. I think this one right here. I think he's going to be. I think he's going to be the really good one, and not only with the popularity because he looks like Mr. Beast, and you know he could create taglines and make very funny thumbnails. Anything that you want to think like that could be applied to this right here. But this guy genuinely, what he showcased in 30 seconds on offense, I mean, Sursakayev is a little too lax in there. I know he does get finishes and he is doing his thing, but this guy right here, he understands the assignment. I'm going against a
Legit.
chinny dude. Just put the craziest 5-punch combination you've ever seen on him, and as soon as he hits the mat, jump on his back and choke him out. And you know, it'd be one thing if he went in there and he stood right in front of him for a second and then got something going. It's not just a 1-2 that sits somebody down. It's not just a check left that somebody sits. He walked in there, he threw a jab, a 1-2, a hook, popped him up with a jab and then a high kick right after, and then dropped him straight to, it's even funnier. You know how good of a striker you are because you can when somebody gets caught with a punch and then they smile at them, they're like, "Ah, you almost got me there," and then they get a kick right after, and then like in the midst of them having the moment of success, like because that should tell you how bad Sakara is as well. In the moment of success where he dodged 2 punches, the third and then a high kick comes right after. He's on his way to the mat. You could have any other fighter who he takes this moment to just fucking try to mount up and do some ground and pound, and now he's got the dude holding his fucking back. Any other situation you can think of, plenty of veterans do that. Plenty of UFC veterans, plenty of people who have been in the league too much. You wonder why. Back away. If you're not gonna finish him, just get up. Just make him stand up. We don't need that from Yakyayev because he actually has finishing ability when other than striking.
An
He jumps.
instinct to do it.
Yeah, exactly. It wasn't just I'm going to get his back, get my hooks in. No, I'm going to strangle this dude. Like
Right.
it, it's it's the instinct. That's what it comes down to. When you see certain fighters, you just feel the instinct that when the going gets tough, that they are fighters. Like this dude truly walked in here with the idea that I'm going to fuck this dude up, and I, this was one of the most impressive debuts. I'm genuinely like this dude right here because not no long talk. He's not a talker. He's just a be about it kind of guy. Like I don't know anything about him. I've never even heard him speak. I don't think. But a performance like that speaks 1,000 fucking words. Like, dude, I know Sakara's bad, but that's what you're supposed to do to bad fighters. You're supposed to make it look like you are fucking God. Like, and I believe it.
That and really that does answer, like that's a very fine counterpoint to what I was going to say is that I mean you're talking about this against Cicada, who is a dude who never should fight in the UFC again. Get this man as far away from an octagon as humanly possible. He has been proven time and time again that he is not of the caliber of the UFC. But that is a very fine counterpoint that this is exactly what you are supposed to do to that caliber of fighter. So does track.
You are a minus 3,000. We beg for people to get finishes when they're minus whatever, and
Right.
they go to decision with these people, or it's a second round finish. You are a minus 3,000. He could have knocked him out with the head kick. He could have ground and pounded him. He almost knocked him out. As close as you can get to a knockout with a head kick is what it was. He literally took him off his fucking feet and then gets the submission. I mean, in my mind, he did both of the ways that he could have finished it in the first round. He was doing everything he needed to. And like I said again, this is not like he just walked in there with a 1-2. He got him with a check hook. No, he literally he had a combination that he knew could get him on the back foot and a head kick to cap it off. And that was supposed to be the end of it. Like that, he was supposed to walk in and walk out with that. But the instinct to jump on the back and get the choke is the next level to what this fighter could be. We have to see every other aspect of the game. We got to see what his wrestling's like, what his striking defense is like, what his back foot offense looks like, whatever you want to say. But as of right now, from what I'm seeing from an offensive skill set, that's what you do to somebody who's fucking plus 1,000. That's
Yeah.
exactly what you do.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the head kick, strike, swarm, and choke. This was a kick-based club and sub, really, if you think
Yeah.
about it. And that you're exactly right. I mean, knowing that is the assignment and that you are following exactly the pattern, that's perfect. That it really is exactly what you want to see. I thought that John Gooden had a very funny bar. He said Yakyayev is fighting like he's double parked. I was like, pretty accurate. I mean, that's really what he was in. He was in there. He's not getting paid by the hour. This dude is out here putting the work in real quick and did the damn thing. So
And and
yeah,
that's why I think I like him more too, is because when you have someone like Dulatov, this is a guy who's got money. He's a runway model. He doesn't need the fighting. He likes to do it, but clearly he don't like to do it enough because he got a first round finish or whatever in his last performance, and we ain't seen him since. Now we got Yakyayev. He comes in off the Contender Series, comes in here all business. This is another day at the office for him. You go back to Tsarukyan, this dude playing around, having too much fun, it's going to bite him in the ass. This is
yes,
somebody who I could say I'm not seeing the reason that he should be. When you watch some fighters, like Sursakayev, you can point out like that's going to be the chink in the armor. Like they just can't get over that. This right here, I'm not seeing it yet. I'm not seeing it yet. So,
well, and we got to, I think you already said it. We got to see it against someone who is not
yeah.
Cicada. But until then, I mean, so far so good is what you can say about that. And the only other note that I had was maybe that teep on Contender Series was a little bit more deadly than
I
we were giving it credit for.
I think I'm mistaken. I think I'm mistaken. I think Sursakayev was the one that got that kick. But
Okay.
either
All
way,
right.
still funny.
Either way, indeed. I mean, look, I've always said we talk about it all the time. We talk about it almost every card for the Contender Series. Every year it comes around, we have the same note. The Contender Series is great. It's entertaining and awesome to watch, and I love it so much. But it really does not matter in the big picture, at least in my estimation, as to what you're going to see in the organization. You need to see what they bring to the table under the big lights in the actual show. Yakyayev just did exactly that. I can't wait to see him again, kind of thing.
Yeah, 100%. He showed me he's got he's got the mentality for a winner as of right now.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, and to your point, you said you didn't hear him talk. He did have a very brief post fight, and all he said in it, which I thought was exactly perfect. He said, I think Bisbing asked me, how about that 33 seconds, and he was like, yeah, next time quicker. I was like,
Nice.
bars, bro.
Yeah.
Indeed. So yeah, good deal there. And again, I cannot reiterate or stress it enough. Get Cicada out of this organization, please. If
Yeah.
you want to talk about people who deserve to be cut, why my king Yanal Ashmuz? I hate to keep bringing it up, but these are the fighters that it really boggles my mind how someone like that gets cut and this guy sticks around.
It goes back to it. It doesn't matter how tough you are. If you legit don't have a credible win, I mean, and even credibility aside, I mean, if you don't have a legitimate win on your current UFC MMA record, you should not be in the UFC. I mean, it's just how it is. I mean, this is supposed to be the top of the top. If you are 0 and 4 to people who are unranked, you are clearly not even supposed to be even here. So that's just
Yeah.
the way that has to be. I'm
Right.
sorry.
Yeah. I mean, you get as much rope as you need to show your true colors. You get enough rope to unfold yourself and reveal yourself to the general public based on your fighting abilities. We have seen everything we need to see out of this person.
Yeah, 100%.
All right. Next up is Alex Perez versus Asu Almabayev. Almabayev, who is not exactly a known finisher, coming in and getting a pretty impressive one in a standing guillotine against Alex Perez, who's coming back after a long layoff due to surgery based on his injury against Tatsuro Taira.
I think there's a lot for me to say about this, and I want to
Please.
start. I want to start by when the fight is walking out. Alex Perez is on his way out. The commentary crew wanted you to believe, that this is a jujitsu guy. Alex Perez, his game is jujitsu. This is a guy who's a grappler. Now I remind you, this is a guy who has 7 submission wins with 6 now submission losses. This is quote unquote a jujitsu guy. And my point that I would like to make, as soon as that I heard that, I said, yeah, you've been submitted 5 times. If you're calling you a jujitsu guy, that must mean you are not a good striker. You are not a good striker if that's what they're going to fall back on. But I want to admit that I was wrong with that assessment. And I want to admit that the commentary fucking stupid. Because Alex Perez actually had some really good fucking striking in this
Oh,
fight.
you were okay with the thigh strikes then?
I Thigh strikes aside, I thought Perez had the pace, the pressure, and the mentality of a striker. It's not that he was going in there with the idea that I'm going to strike, and then I'm going to drop and dip. He was going in there and actually pushing some shit around. He was throwing some heavy bombs that made Asu, dude. There was the thought in the first couple rounds. It's like, holy shit, like Asu Amabayev really does not like to get punched. Like, he is genuinely running across the cage most of the time that the strikes are coming at him. So I was very impressed with Perez when it came to the striking, because he genuinely made me believe, like, there's a good fighter there. I can see it. I can see it now. I understand it. I know he knocked out Mateus Nicolau, but that dude sucks. This right here, the striking right here against Asu, I mean, he was making him, again, run across the cage just like Manel Cap did. And this is supposed to be a jiu-jitsu guy, a grappler, whatever you want to say. So I believed in it. Alex Perez was looking really good for these first 2 rounds. And it made me start questioning, how overvalued has Asu Amabayev been? Because these first 2 rounds, Alex Perez, who we know is not very good, he was pushing you around, doing whatever he wanted to you in these first 2 rounds. What's even funnier is that, the round 3 starts, and it is almost like life or death for Asu to get this choke. And granted, credit to him, he got this fucking choke. I remember when the fight started, I said Asu Amabayev looks like a spider monkey for some reason, and then that choke solidified my point even more, because the way that he climbed to this guillotine and sunk it in and had all the pressure, he was very fantastic. Not something we see every day. I'll give you that. But for somebody like Alex Perez, who has been submitted 5 times before this one, I question how good of defense it could have been if it was somebody who hasn't been submitted that many times. I'm sure there's somebody out there who wouldn't have got caught in that, because up until that point, Alex Perez was doing so good at other things, and then this happens. So I'm. Go ahead. I'll
I
let
was
you.
gonna say, let me jump in here because I this is another one where you're framing things in a way that I think is not correct when it comes to Asu Almabayev, and to say that he's been overvalued based on this skill set, it goes back to this divide that you and I have as to how fights are navigated. Because what I have in the notes is that Asu Almabayev was controlling the range and the movement very well early on, and if you recall, for Asu Almabayev, he has a style and a game plan that lends itself to that. The only time that he's really had trouble with his game plan was Manel Kopp. And why was that? Because Manel Kopp was fouling him like a complete asshole. Now, take that one out of the equation. What he does is he uses speed and movement to tire out his opponents, to get them off of their striking game so that he can get in for the clinching and then get his game plan off at close range. And like you said, Spider Monkey, he's all over his opponents once he has his hands on him. He just needs to work his way in. So I think you're absolutely right in the assessment that Perez is a better striker than people were giving him credit for, if that's what the assessment was. Like, he was doing pretty well with timing his shots. I thought that Asu's speed was making it hard for him to fully time all of those shots. Like that, he would get a couple of them and then it'd be like, oh, I'm not actually being able to like turn up combos because this dude is just moving too well. So I'm like, okay, that he adjusts nicely with that. He went to a low kick strategy thereafter. I was like, that's a good adjustment. I thought that Perez was navigating this fight really effectively, but I don't discount that Asu Almabayev has a game plan that works for him, and I think that it's just not one where he's going to stand there and take a whole bunch of shots in the face.
I see, but that's where I counter, is because you're saying it's a game plan that works for him. It only works for him in this instant because he got a third round submission. He was losing those first 2 rounds, in my opinion.
Oh, I mean, fair. And like, look, it's not necessarily going to be like 100% every round. And I mean, maybe it wouldn't have been the right strategy for this fight, but it has worked for him, is what I'm saying. So like, yeah, if it's going to be like, every opponent is different. Every opponent's going to react to it a little bit differently. It had been working for him. I guess there you go. If you want to look at it that way, then good adjustment to know that I need to be getting the finish and go for something that's outside of the range of what I normally would do.
Yeah, no,
So
I definitely agree with you on that part. I think this is I don't know. When I look at Asu Amabayev after that performance, I think of the level that Alex Perez is on the feet. He's a grappler to everybody. This isn't some elite level striker, but we have elite level strikers in flyweight. Manel Cap is one of those who's a cheating bastard. Yes, the only person that gave Asu Amabayev problems at this point, but losing the first 2 rounds, in my opinion, to Alex Perez before pulling off the Hail Mary sub. I mean, that's not
I
going to
had it
happen too
1-1
many
though.
times.
I mean, I had it 1-1. I thought that Sue took I think the first round.
Okay.
Perez did, yeah, because I said Perez did a great job with the takedowns and output in the second round. I had it 1-1 going into the third. So, I mean, I don't know. Maybe I was wrong with that assessment. I rewatched it, so I went back and point by pointed it. But
I don't know. I think at one time we could have argued that this is a guy who potentially could be the champ with Asu Amabayev, but I think the ship has sailed if this is the skill set that we're going to consistently get.
that I will agree with you on. I think that maybe I'd been I'd inflated the value just a little bit in that regard, and that I'll concede. I do think that I might have been a little bit too high based on the. I mean, look, as I was saying, I think a good adjustment, and knowing that you needed to change course in the third round to go outside of the comfort zone of what may or may not have been working and kind of working in pieces, so to speak, in this fight. That's a good adjustment. But as far as being able to consistently do that and then having to take that to a 5-rounder, the dynamics change with that, the cardio element of what the upper echelon of the division has. I think that there are holes in the game that don't lend themselves to champion level competition for Asu. But I mean, at least in this fight, I think that it obviously ended up working out in the big picture. And I think that he is definitely one of those guys that could be at the low end of the elite level. You know what I mean? Like if we were talking about the higher ranks, he could be like, what's he ranked now? He's like seventh or something like that, I want to say.
Sure.
That's what I'm saying. So if he's fifth, if he's top 5, I would be okay with that. I don't necessarily think that he'd go much past that.
He's now 8.
8. So there,
Oh,
yeah,
they haven't updated this because Alex Perez is 7, and
so
he's 8. Yeah.
proving my point even better without knowing it. Then yeah, I mean him going up to 5 to top 5, in that range where he's kind of fluctuating between 5 to 7 to 4 and like kind of just circling that bottom, like right underneath the elites. That seems about right to where his ceiling is.
And so the only thing that I think about now is what's next for Alex Perez, because as of that performance, I'm excited to see what could be next. I know he's at the end, he's the tail end of his career, so to speak, and obviously off of a loss. But with flyweight, we have this really good prospect coming up named Lonnie Kavanaugh. I think this is time we get him in the rankings, give him an opportunity against a very. I know Charles Johnson was the veteran that obviously stopped him, but we're going to need a comeback story, and I think Alex Perez is a good test. I like that.
I do too. I do too. And actually, it's funny that you mentioned CJ in that portion of the conversation, because I was thinking that also might be, if you wanted to go the other way and have it be veteran versus veteran, then there's potential there as well. And that seems like a fine matchup. If the striking is something that Perez is going to be leaning on more, then you don't get much more of a striker's affair than a guy like Charles Johnson.
Hell yeah! So
So
this one was actually a really good fight. I really enjoyed this because I figured out a lot of things on the way. I figured out Asu is not somebody that I'm going to hang my hat on, and I also realized that Alex Perez is somebody that if the fight comes and his name is on it, I should be looking forward to it.
yeah, I see nothing wrong with that. I do another person who, I mean, he's probably just going to be swirling around the middle of the rankings, if that. But definitely a fighter to enjoy their fights and get what you can out of them. So I'm
Hell
completely with that.
yeah.
Well, that brings us to the next fight, which is actually a pretty fine segue, I would say. This is Nicholas Dalby versus Sagid Izagagmayev. Is that they said it a number of times on commentary. I was trying so hard to get it right, but Sagid Izagagmayev.
Yeah. So
Izagagmayev.
So this fight right here, in my mind, was set in stone. This was destiny, of course. This is listen, when it comes to Nicholas Dalby, I can tell you two things are certain in life: taxes, Nicholas Dalby split decision. I mean, it doesn't. Listen, I can't tell you why or how, but this dude, he He's just crafty. I mean, this is a performance that you would not have expected because this is not normally how Nicholas Dalby is fighting. But what he's doing here, and I can definitely get, and I haven't heard this personally, but I could definitely get the people who would be like, that was a boring fight. That was not a good performance, yada yada yada. When you're Nicholas Dalby, you take what you can get in the sport. You're 40 something years old. You're not here to fucking build new, like, building fans. It's going to come as it comes now. You know, you're not here to be in the spotlight. You're not going to be rising the ranks as a hot prospect. Dunzo. We don't need that. We're not here to be having electrifying performances. You can do that. And I really appreciate that you from Dalby. But what I appreciate you more is that you take your profession serious. I mean, you're here to fucking win, dude. Like, I'm not here to get fucking knocked out or wrestled around in the first round, which he was not going to get wrestled around. The strength in this matchup was so crazy, different levels. Nicholas Dalby, I mean, he had the Discord thinking that he was on roids. I mean, this dude pushing around Islam's mate or whatever, because I think Islam was also in the corner for this one.
He was, yeah.
That's different type of strength. I mean, because we've seen these mountain guys, they are normally, when it comes to just random grip strength and you know, muscling people around, they got it. But Nicholas Dalby was not having any of that. First round, I will honestly believe that he lost because all he did was hold him up against the cage and get kneed in the stomach a billion times. I thought it was going to be, if anything was going to happen, the knees to the stomach were going to finally add up. But when it comes to Nicholas Dalby and when it comes to what his cardio is, you could look at a pair of lungs, and if they were covered in gold, they would probably be inside of this dude's chest because
Legit.
golly, this dude does not 42 years old or whatever it is, at the peak of his physical, you know, he's just always in shape. He always shows up ready to go. He can go 3 rounds, 5 rounds, and you know, and people, I don't get how people don't understand that this is not your average fighter. Like, people, they'll compare him to older fighters. They're like, he's old and he's, look at Muslim Salikov. Look at him. Does he look like Nicholas Dalby? No, no. He
It's
literally,
facts. Yeah,
you know.
you're cooking on that.
So it's just crazy to me that people still don't see that Nicholas Dalby is a hard fight. Like, as you know, the people who go into the fights, if you don't watch tape, obviously you're out of fucking luck. But the people who do watch Nicholas Dalby and they are still not understanding how he has fans or why he is as good as he is and can compete with the people that he does, listen, he will get you a win no matter the circumstances. He has a skill set that is well rounded. He has heart that is, dude, he's just gritty. Like, he gets in there, and the fight that you may not want, he's going to take it to you. And that's exactly what's key about him, is like, he's a hard fight because he'll make it gruesome for you in the places that you don't want to be the most. And,
Right.
and Dalby's just, dude, I'm telling you, this guy is really fucking good.
Yeah, well, I mean, you said you haven't heard too many people saying that this was a boring fight. I hate to kind of be one of those people, but I think you make a lot of good points as to why that was the case. So I'm with that. You know, fan of Dolby. Obviously, I was shouting out Bloomis at the beginning of this thing. Bloomis is in the chat watching along with us, so you know we're all rooting for this dude to do it for Denmark, and doing it for Denmark was, you know, it made us all very happy there. That being said, I don't think that you can deny that this really was fighting with a very distinct game plan in order to get the win, you
Yeah.
know, because this dude was wall installing a lot of this fight. Now, I mean, granted, it did kind of come back the other way at times, but to your point about his strength, he reversed a lot of that as well. I mean, you know, what I would say on the other side, you know, we talked a whole lot about Dalby here. You know, gave a good rundown of everything on that side of things. On the Sagan side of things, it looked like he was just really unsure of himself throughout a lot of this, and I would posit that a lot of that comes from probably not fighting a lot of people like Dalby and like people who are going to be able to have an answer for what you're bringing to the table. These guys, you know, especially from this region, they kind of take the takedown for granted. You know what I mean? Like, I think at least some of these dudes who have not had UFC experience, it's like, oh, I mean, I'm out here on the regional scene being able to just, you know, walk in and the guy's just on the ground already. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
It's like, you got a guy like Dalby, he stands his base in a way that you've not seen from any of these guys guys that you're going up against at the levels that you've been at, this is what you get out of that. He's reversing clinch exchanges a lot of the times. I mean, like, you can get him for a second, but he'll be able to take that back. That all being said, Dalby, what I would have liked to have seen, the only thing that would have made this like a win that I could be like, damn, Dalby, you really did it, would be a little bit more activity when he's in those positions. I know, I understand, because you say, oh, you can't do that because that'll give the other guy the openings that he wants. I get that, but you got to a little bit, man. I mean, to an extent, you got to do something more than that, because for them to get broken up on the cage, when the referee had to step in and say, all right, enough is enough, and then it immediately goes back to that, and then it's just the same thing. Now, it didn't exactly happen here. There was a little bit more in between there, and when Dalby was at range, he was trying to go for the striking, so fair on that point of it. But like, you know what this fight was. This was 3 rounds of wall stall pretty much, and with a definite reason, with an understandable reason. But it's got to be a little bit more. And I know that he's not trying to win fans. You made a good point with that too. I'm just saying, as a guy who is a fan already, give me a little bit more meat on the bone.
What I want to say is the thing that I took away from this fight. And you talked about Sagid not being sure of himself. Maybe the confidence wasn't there, the lights too bright, whatever you want to say. There were moments where the only moments that he had success, really, is what I'll say. The only moments that he had success in this fight are blatant mistakes from Nicholas Dalby. Dalby ended
Fair.
up on the bottom because he tried to fucking trip him, and then he just tripped him back, and then we get a full mount from Sagid that he does nothing with, and Dalby gets back to his feet. I think there was another moment where Dalby like just randomly ended up on the bottom, and it's like, what are you fucking doing, dude? But then Sagid did nothing with it, and it's like the worst mistakes that Dalby could have made happened, and Sagid was unable to enact any. It's the same thing with Shamrock. You got him in full mount, bro. There's no getting him back to that. Like, you had him. Like,
Right.
you already fucked up. If you got to think about doing it again, cut your losses, figure something else out, because they're gonna be wise to it the second time around. And in this fight, Dalby had those moments where I was like, oh shit, he really just fucking put himself right into the danger zone. But in typical plot armor fashion, Nicholas Dalby don't have a fucking problem putting himself in bad situations. I just genuinely do like watching this dude fight. He does, and we can agree this was not a fireworks performance, but this is a performance that when I look back and I think of the times that I've put money down on fighters, the people who have stood the test and won me some fucking money, people like Nicholas Dalby.
It's true. I mean, it is not a fireworks performance, but a performance that gets the job done by split decision.
By split decision. Yep. Yep.
Which is, hey, look, a win is a win is a win. And I really, I go back to that point that you made, about his age and him defying his age, and right now, like where he's at. He's actually one of those people that I think was part of the conversation, because I had mentioned this on the watch along, where I was saying, if now he's not in this part of the category, but if you are a fighter who has been consistently losing in the UFC, I personally believe that it's okay to go to another organization if you want to get your wins back and you just want to make a little extra cash at the end of your career. He defies that. And like, and doing these types of fights and fighting the way that he fights, like in a performance like this is how he is able to defy that. So I think that it all tracks, and I'm completely okay with it, bro. Do whatever you can or want to do for as long as you can do it at this level, because you're really, he's the prototype of a guy who does defy his age. I mean, I have that clip from a while back, where I think it might have been the Fakradinov fight, where I was me and Vitz King were sort of memeing on his breathing patterns. Bro, we can make fun of it, and it was a nice little joke there. Keep fucking doing it. Whatever is making those lungs as golden as you described them, Chase. Keep doing it. Just be you. Be the representative of Denmark that is sorely needed in this sport right now, because I believe he is the only man of Denmark, of Danish descent on the roster currently, and he is a damn fine representative of that country.
Yes, I'll actually give a shout out to the other representative of Denmark who we had more recently, who's not here anymore. It was the Bosnian bomber, which technically he's Bosnian, but he did represent Denmark, and both there was a lot of crossover. Anyway, shout out to Nicholas Dow because you win in this fight. I mean, split decision is pretty fucking funny. I'm not gonna lie to you. The fact that one of the judges was like, we can't like give it to that guy, right? But a job is a job, a win is a win, and Nicholas Dalby put on a performance that once again Chase looks up to.
Indeed, indeed. So shout out to our king of Denmark, king of the Danes over here, Mr. Dalby. Appreciate you as always.
Hell yeah.
All right, rounding out the prelims here, Bogdan Grod versus Luke Riley. Of course, this is Paddy Pimblett's second product here, second teammate, Mr. Riley. Before we get into the fight portion of things, though, what the fuck was Bogdan Grod's walkout? Did you see
With
that?
him
Yeah,
holding his hand, like, yeah.
bro already looks like Nosferatu. Now he's coming out with the Misfits arm cross dealy with, but then also holding hands with his teammate. Then this was the one that snuck by a lot of people though, but I caught it on the rewatch. It snuck by me at first. He also did this thing where he pulls out this was in the inspection zone, mind you. He pulls out, he does the fake sword pull out, and then he screams really loud. And I was like, bro, just stop. Just stop. You're doing too much right now, brother. You're doing too much. And I like the guy. I'm a decent fan of Bogdan Grod, but he was definitely putting too much energy into the walkout, and we know what happened in the fight itself. So that being said, Chase, what did you think of Luke Riley in his debut?
Speaking of the walkouts,
Oh,
and
okay. Sorry.
yes, no, you're fine. You talked about Bogdan. Yes, he is an interesting looking character. We'll give you that. Luke Riley, on the other hand, I don't know what to say is offsetting about his face, but like it's got to be like the eyes or something. Like when you look at him, there's just like it's just something off with him, and I don't know what it is. But like so many times, like even when you look at him and like they're doing the pre-fight and they got the camera right up on his face, it's like unsettling the way that his face looks. I don't know what about it. I don't know, but either way, the performance here it was again, we're putting a lot of stock in these mates being Paddy Pimblett's mates, I'm again not sold too much on them. I think this is the better performance of the two, obviously, but Bogdan Grad, I again, this is back to overvaluing people. I think. I mean, this is a guy who I watched lose a first round very convincingly, and then come back and get a second round finish. Should he have been down in that first round if he was decent? Probably not. But I've also seen clips of him getting chinned by, I'm pretty sure, Tom Nolan or something in the Contender Series. Like that's a crazy thing to happen. But him getting chinned here, not surprising to me after you've seen him get flatlined before because once you see it, you know it's possible. So when this fight happens, Bogdan Grant is doing a very good job of leading the dance for the first round. I mean, he he's got a game plan, and it worked for what it did, and
Well, that's what I was
then
going to say. I mean, it's like the wrestling was a smart game plan in hindsight, and he was doing a good job with that. I mean, the control on the ground was pretty well there. Riley ends up getting up from the ground, and he kept the control. I was like, okay, I mean, this is solid work that he's doing. I'm always an appreciator of people who can continue the control into the stand up because that shows that you're not only able to do it on the ground for as long as you had it, but then you still have the wherewithal to keep that potentially more momentum thereafter. I mean, a lot of people, if like they start getting up, you break off, you start to regroup, and now it's the next plan. But if you keep the control, you have a little like a minor one up to be able to, get the arm around the neck. There's a couple of different options that you have if you keep it. So I was seeing a lot of things that I liked early on in this fight, but round two was a lot different than round one.
Yeah, so round two, of course, Bogdan Grad gets caught with this shot that literally spins him out of his shoes. The whatever the sound is that happens in Mario when you hit the banana, that's the shit that happened to this dude.
Lost his coins.
Yeah, spun around his head, hit a whole 360 as if he was an owl, and then he drops to the ground. The fight actually still continues for a good amount of time. And what's funny about sequences like this is because you get a ground and pound sequence that's not very powerful shots. They're very small. They're very, and then you're like, okay, he's good, he's good, he's good. No, he's unconscious. He's unconscious. All right, fuck
Yeah,
it. Yeah, like
head starts bouncing off the mat.
yeah, and it's like they aren't even the craziest shots. It's like you could just tell that he was still hurt, and like the recovery did not factor in. Like he was those little peppering shots on the ground, and then their head just starts like, yeah, it's like fucking god damn it. Yeah, he got fucked. But shout out to Luke Riley for being able to find the finish, of course. Is it the best thing that that first round didn't really go in his favor? I don't know going forward. I'd have to see more. I mean, this is a featherweight. Ooh, I mean, but I could see that with every division, though. I could look at the division and look at the competition and be like, ah, that guy's not got a
Right.
chance. But
Yeah.
featherweight, we're looking for new names. So I'll go ahead and I'll accept Luke Riley can go ahead and be decent. If he can chin people after the first round, I mean, okay, fair.
Well, yeah. So I also want to preface what I'm going to say by agreeing with what you said there. I mean, we got to see him in a little bit more of a two-way fight, perhaps a little bit more adversity than just getting held on the ground. Because really, if you look back on the wrestling and the grappling that did happen here, it wasn't necessarily like transitions to submission position. Like it really was a lot of control. So I'm good with Luke Riley. I want to see more out of the guy. I'm okay with this win. The only thing that I will say is that upon rewatch, when I really broke down the sequence that led to the finish here, he overthrew if you look at what the strikes was, he overthrew the right hand, which set him up in perfect position for the counter left. Now, that's common. That's not an uncommon thing to happen. All I'm saying is that based on what we had seen currently, like, could it have possibly just been that exact right moment that it all came together? I'm not saying fluke. The guy has a decent pedigree from Cage Warriors. All I'm saying was what we saw from round one, and then the ending sequence being what it was. Can he replicate? Is the question that I'm left with. That's all I'm trying to say with this. Like, great shot, perfect placement, all of that, all good. It just started with the overthrow that leads me to be a little bit curious as to if it was just right place, right time, and it all kind of stars aligned.
Possible, but I think I just don't think Bogdan Grad is somebody that the eye test will show you now. He's not the greatest. Does have a very marauder style, but when you leave your chin open and you throw wild punches, I mean, there's gonna be a technical striker that can capitalize on that. Is Luke Riley the type of dude that's gonna be able to do this against somebody who doesn't make those minor mistakes? That's going to be the question, because if not, he's just getting held down for another 2 rounds. I mean, and will anything happen in those sequences? Probably not, but it's not like he's doing anything off of his back that's going to secure him the round. So he's just going to have a unanimous decision loss. I mean, that's just what I see coming if he's not going to get this round two shot.
Yeah, perhaps. More data needed, I guess, is what
Yeah.
I'll be left with on this one. And fine though, good. You get a knockout in your debut, all good. You get the chance to do it right there again, and potentially against somebody who's going to be a little bit more suited to your style and or give you a different type of challenge. So we will get that, and I'm perfectly okay with that aspect of it.
Yeah.
And if Luke Riley does not work out in the UFC, then he'll always have a job as the stand-in for Killian Murphy, because bro looks a lot like dude from Oppenheimer.
I think, and Killian Murphy's an interesting looking guy too. I think you're cooking because there's something unsettling about both of their
I
faces.
mean, I very rarely switch the tab, but just to,
Yeah, go
to
ahead.
just to
Let's see
show
it.
you here, this picture specifically was the one that made me see it. You see that he's got the high cheek kind of deal going on.
Mhm.
Yeah, that was the one that did it for me as far
Yeah.
as the assessment.
Yeah, so shout out Killian Murphy. We'll look to see you in your second UFC bout.
Indeed. Good way to round out these prelims on a card that was cooking pretty decently up to this point. So I mean, we're kind of keeping with the gas here. Next up was Tagiro Unbekov versus Kyoji Horiguchi. Of course, Horiguchi, we talked on the last episode about his long and storied career in this sport, spanning multiple organizations. He's traveled the entire planet fighting some very high level guys in the past. Thought he looked pretty good here. What'd you think of Horiguchi?
I also will agree. He looked pretty damn good for a dude that I don't know that's been around every organization that you could think of. But uh, Tagir Ulanbekov, and I'm not trying to let me actually Horiguchi, very fun, very good performance, very fun, entertaining personality. I
Mhm.
think that's what I'm excited to see him again. I'm excited to see him back in the organization because somebody like this, with a little personality, it's needed. To Tagir Ulanbekov, I think we have finally. We knew the answer to this after the last performance against Maxim. That Maxim was able to actually do very good things against Ulanbekov and actually have success in the grappling as a striker. Uh, then he ended up robbing Maxim, in my opinion. I thought Maxim had won that. And then we saw with Maxim's last performance, he's not very good at all. So the fact that it was even close with Tagir leads you to believe that he's not very good at all now. I don't know what that says, but I know that he had a decent first round and for two more rounds did nothing and then eventually got choked out. And what's key about this one too is a choked unconscious. Yeah. Yeah. This one, love to see it. Hopefully, and this is another case. Islam was in your corner. Did it help? No. I'm
Yeah.
just
No, I mean, I think that really Tagir has kind of been exposed in a lot of ways, and in this fight, he really was not overly active for a lot. I mean, there was
10
kind of a
strikes is crazy.
that's what yeah, I mean, so there you go. I mean, yeah, 10 strikes to the 120
Yeah.
total significant strikes from Horiguchi. So yeah, I mean, I honestly didn't feel that way and like upon watch, but like looking at the numbers, they really don't lie here. I mean, like it was an inactive performance that made Tagir a bit more of a blank canvas than I feel like we've seen him before, maybe, but maybe it's just the level of competition. I don't know. Whatever the case may be, Horiguchi had open season in this fight, and that actually was my biggest note on the watch along. If you go back to the watch along, you see me kind of being a little bit hypercritical of Horiguchi. And I think the reason was not to hate on the guy, but more so because to be like, dude, you can finish this fight. Like it's the same note that you gave to Julia Pilastri when you were
Mhm.
like she was playing with her food a little bit. I don't know if that's necessarily what this was. I think maybe Horiguchi like kind of just naturally ramps up his aggression, ramps up the output over the course of the fight, which is what it ended up being. So I'm like, because you'll see, really, I mean, going back to the watch along tells the entire story of how I looked at this fight. Because like rounds 1 and 2, I'm like, bro, how are you not like taking this guy out already? Round 1 was definitely slow. Round 2, I was like, you're way ahead at this point. And going between rounds 2 and 3, going into the third round, I was like, if he finishes this fight right now, perfect performance, and I'm going to take everything back. And then he did that. So I'm like, you know what? This all works out for me. I think he could have probably got to it a little bit quicker, but the guy is, you got to think he's somewhere close to the tail end of his career with 35-5 as his record. But Bros he moves really nice. Like there really was no thing that I picked up on that I was like, man, he's really showing his age in this respect. Like
Yeah.
everything looked really solid, So I was just like, okay, if this guy is able to do this, another dude who maybe is pulling the Nicholas Dalby and defying his age a little bit here, or I mean, not even really that old, right? He's like 35, I want to say, or
Something
36.
like that.
Yeah, so somewhere in that range. So, yeah, he's closer to the tail end, but not like exactly there just yet. This was a fine performance as far as I was concerned. And going back to the Tagir side of things, I just think that maybe he's never really been it, and this is just a fight that kind of shows you that more so than we've seen in past.
I think the truth of the matter is that Habib is going to be coaching for a really long time if his goal is to have Umar, Islam, and Tagir win belts before he stops coaching.
Yeah, I don't know if Father's plan is going to work out for all of these guys. And really, I mean, I think that what you're ending up seeing, if we're talking about that side of things, is the saturation of Dagestan can only yield so much. I mean, we had this influx in when Habib was fighting, and then Islam thereafter, and now a couple of their guys start coming in. You see it starting to kind of exponentially grow as far as the talent pool that the organization is accepting. This is a natural progression of that. Like not every fighter that is coming out of Dagestan is going to be a champ. That's factual like thinking. I mean, that's
Not
just
enough divisions, guys.
well, the law of averages. I mean, we just Saget is another great example of that. I mean, a guy who, maybe he becomes that somewhere along those lines later on. But as far as what you saw there, you're seeing the natural, the variety of human beings that are coming out of Dagestan. They're not all going to be the highest elite level, even if they're coached by a guy who was, debatably,
Yeah.
or being cornered by the pound for pound best or whatever. I mean, it's not going to come by osmosis. These guys have to also have a natural inherent ability that's just not going to be there for every single person that comes out of the region. So this all is very logical to me that this is happening, you know?
Yeah. No, I definitely agree with you on that one. I What can I say? I mean, I'm just excited to see what's next for Horiguchi because he called out Pantoja in his post-fight speech. I don't dislike it. A lot of people are like, "Whoa, one fight win streak, no way he gets spelled." But like, he's got history in the sport. It's flyweight. There's not that many people. I don't. One more win. Let's see what happens.
I mean,
He'll
there's
fight
enough.
Josh Van for the belt.
Yeah, perhaps. I mean, there's enough people that it's a little bit goofy, but also, I mean, look, he's coming in hot, off of the win, and I think also the fact that their teammates kind of added a little mystique to that as well. He's coming in there with the business, not personal, and then yelling after everything he says. I thought that he's got a personality that I kind of fucked with. I was like, okay, this guy's cool. I mean, like going in there and doing that, and then saying what you said on the mic, like I really the whole package was fine to me. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
so if that's what if you get a good win like that, even if it is slightly ridiculous that you call out the champ based on all of those circumstances, you get a win like that, it's okay to me. I mean, I'm not going to like instantly be like, fuck this guy, that's dumb. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I agree with you. Yeah, so this one will be interesting to see what moves forward. But Tagir, I mean, the ship has sailed. I mean, there's not really much more that I would say I'm excited to see out of a performance that landed 10 strikes total.
To put it into perspective, this was a head kick that lands, drops to gear, rear naked choke into the second club and sub based on a kickstart on this card. You are now in the same category as Cicada as far as this card is concerned. That is somewhere no one wants to be. So
True.
yeah, it is what it is. The facts don't lie on that one. So I don't know. We'll see what happens with Tagir, but I say time and time again, I just feel like he's being proven to not be it.
Yeah.
So
Yep, I hear you.
good deal. Well, someone who very well might be it is in the next fight here. This is Waldo Cortez Acosta versus Shamil Gaziev. Of course, Waldo coming in on 48 hours notice. The dude touched down in Qatar 1 hour before weigh-ins. That is something for short notice. I said some fights are short notice and those are impressive. Some short notice fights are more impressive than others. This is certainly one of the more impressive ones, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, there's not much more you can say. I think listen. I knew what Shamil Gaziev was. If there are people out there who genuinely had hope for him after what his skill set is to be, um, I think you were just sadly mistaken. This is a plodding heavyweight. This is a guy who just steps forward with all of the weight on the front foot, throws 1-2s, and calls it a day. Like there's nothing more to his game. Never needed to be more. And there's a reason why they call it a humbling experience. Waldo Cortez Acosta, he is not the best, but he is a crafty veteran at this point. He knows how to win fights. He will do exactly what Nicholas Dalby will do. He will make it boring to win fights if that is what he comes down to. You can ask Rebelis Despaigne. You can ask anybody who, Waldo was taken to decision. I think in the performance with Sergey Pavlovich, I think even myself would like to overlook that sometimes, but I think Waldo, for some reason, had a false sense of confidence in that fight. I think he's gained his confidence back. He's competing with the guys again. He's knocking people out now. I think he's riding a lot of momentum, and I think this was an easy call out for people who knew that Waldo does have a little bit of power behind him, and Shamil Gaziev is a fat slob who stands there and doesn't block his face. I mean, there really isn't too much more to it. So
Fair. Yeah, I mean, look, Waldo gaining some confidence, it really comes with the finishes that he's been having recently. I mean, finisher Waldo is a problem for people that going to the Pavlovich fight. I think that he might have been respecting the power of the past of Pavlovich a little bit too much in that fight, even though we all knew that Pavlovich has changed significantly.
yes,
That right. I mean, in the broad scheme of things, it kind of is the right mindset to have. I mean, he's the one in there. Pavlovich still is who he is, regardless of the dynamics being different. You know what I'm saying? I mean, like, I think it's an understandable mindset for that. Waldo coming in with this level of confidence, especially against a guy like Fiziev, Gaziv, excuse me, against Gaziv, as you had said, I think this makes a lot more sense. And I think that Gaziv gave him a fight that really played right into his hands, because going through what happened in this fight just a little bit, pressure was on early from Shamil. I mean, he was the one advancing. Waldo had to go through a couple of pretty big evasive maneuvers, but he's good with those. That's one thing that I will give Waldo some credit for, is that he will allow himself to be a little bit too backed up at times, and that's kind of a criticism that I have of him. But when he's in those in that positioning on the cage, he's good with his head movement. Like, he will evade those shots. It's a dangerous game. You're playing with fire when you're doing that, but somehow Waldo is able to navigate that. He ends up dropping Shamil with a really short jab more than anything else. It was kind of just a pop shot that got him. Shamil ends up surviving that. He ends up using that jab again effectively to set up the other shot, the overhand shot that came thereafter. That was the more power shot. He's pumping jab, follows it up with the power shot, puts Gaziv out. I was like, this all tracks really nicely with Waldo's skill set. And then, it being Shamil, that's just heavyweight. You know what I mean? You're going to get those guys. He's going to get those until he ends up actually getting the Aspinall fight that he's been asking for. I think that you're doing the right things in the broad scheme of things, the way that he navigates fights with this finishing ability. And that sets people apart. And we'll talk about some other fighters who maybe didn't have that on this card.
Yeah, I think with Waldo, it's a confidence thing. It really is. I mean, this is somebody who, on their best day, I think genuinely could be the champion, especially in heavyweight. This is the skill set is not leading you to believe this is one of the greatest of all time, but this is a consistent performer who shows up, and if he has confidence, he can do really good things. And I think that's really what it comes down to. With Pavlovich, I think that is what I saw was somebody who did not have the confidence. And you are right about that point. It's like, just because Pavlovich hasn't knocked anybody out in 2 fights doesn't mean I need to put my face where he's punching, so I don't dislike the idea that maybe I should play my game, counter strike, and try to, win over the course of the fight. Maybe he'll gas out, but it's unfortunately not what happened. So Waldo, keep finishing. That's all I got to say.
Yeah, and really, I mean, like, honestly, based on what we have seen, I would actually like. He wants to shoot up. He's been calling for the Aspinall fight. The whole thing with the eye patch. We can talk about that in a second. Whatever. The point is that like he's trying to maneuver himself a little bit past Pavlovich. But I would be okay with a rematch of that fight if Waldo could have this level of self belief in that fight, and then take that fight to him the way that he's been taking it to his other opponents. That to me would be, if they rematched that fight and he was able to finish that fight, that would be the time where I'd be like, okay, Waldo may be a level that we have not necessarily been putting him in before.
I think what is realistically going to happen, because Waldo has been adamant that he wants to fight one more time before this year's out and set the record of 6 heavyweight fights in a year. I think the only thing that makes sense for Mr. Waldo Cortez Acosta, I know it's fighting down, but if he wants to fight in December, there's only one person within the top 15 that is going to take this fight, and that is Marcin Tybura. This is a very game fighter, doesn't really care the matchup that he gets. He'll go in there against a striker, go against a grappler on any day's notice, it seems. And whatever the outcome seems to be, he don't really give a shit, I mean, I hate to break it to you, but he's a guy who wants to get a paycheck for fighting. And it's not really a paycheck for winning. He does do his best, but he's in there to get paid. And shout out him. If he goes in there and takes a fight against Waldo in December, that's what I'm seeing can happen. That's what I would say.
I say that they put him up against Josh Hokett and get that problem solved.
I think Josh Hokett is going to be saved for the Gable Stevenson matchup. I think they have to do that.
I mean, we were just talking about the two of them, and I, that we were talking about that in the Discord as well. Honestly, that both people with interesting dynamics to them. Them kind of negating one another. At least you get one taken care of out of that.
Yeah.
So we'll see. Yeah, a lot of interesting things going on at heavyweight because of how much they're trying to pump into it. But you can't deny Waldo on this one, coming in on 48 hours notice to do it and flying across the planet to do it as well. I really got to give this guy a lot of credit for the circumstances surrounding this fight in addition to the performance.
100%.
All right, moving on to the next one here is Miktabek Orlabai versus Jack Hermanson. Do you want to run down all of the dynamics of this fight one more time for people who are not aware?
So the dynamics of this fight is that Jack Hermanson in his last performance was knocked out by Gregory RoboCop Rodriguez at 185 pounds. He has decided to step down to 170 pounds after that performance. Miktabek Orabai in his last two performances have missed weight by more than like 3 to 5 pounds, like to the point where they have to switch it to a catch weight bout at
Right.
165 pounds. Therefore, Miktabek is stepping up to 175 pounds to meet Jack Hermanson in the middle of the weight clash that we have here. Now, some people will say that stepping down a weight class after a brutal knockout is not the greatest choice. There are also some people who would say Miktabek doesn't have scales in his cave, so how could he ever make weight? These are things that you can ask yourself, but the only thing that needs to be said is that in one round, a grappler from 155 pounds knocked out a grappler from 185 pounds in the first round with a grazing shot to his eardrum. I mean, you really can't even make this shit up. How this sport works sometimes. You would think, oh, 185-pound man, 155-pound man. This is why we have weight classes. This surely should not be the matchup that we get because this is a guy who carries the mass of a 185-pound man. This is the guy who carries the mass of a 155-pound man. But nope, we get Miktabek Orabai walks in, throws straight punches straight down the pipe, and then eventually grazes Jack Hermanson's earlobe and knocks him out. I mean, it's what I will say about this one too, just before I let you go, because I
Sure.
think it's important to note. This is a knockout that you question how it knocks somebody out, right? That is how. Okay, you may I agree. I'm not that person, but there are people. It's a grazing shot. It's not a flush shot to any portion of his body. It did clip the whatever. This is one of those moments where you know for fact this was not no dive. This was not no paid off moment. No, this dude really went unconscious, like from a shot that grazed his head. Like, Neil Magny fell over and people are like, that looks a little weird. No, this dude got folded like a lawn chair with this shot. Like it 100% was real. I just want everybody to know that if you were questioning if the shot landed, watch the way he falls. It
Oh,
was a clean shot.
no, I mean anybody who like pays attention to this sport should know that a shot directly on the ear, even a grazing shot, because you
Yeah.
are correct. I mean, the shot did go past his head a little bit, but enough connection on the ear. I mean, that's Felder was talking exactly about it. It takes your equilibrium out, and I was like, yeah, it certainly took out his equilibrium, as it also took his soul from his body. Because I mean, yeah, he had eyes wide open,
Yes.
staring off into 1,000 yards up into the ceiling. So I mean, it really was a soul taker of a shot. You said about the straight shots of Orlby. That's the only real other thing that I had a little bit of an issue with, but not. I mean, not that he wasn't throwing some straights, but my biggest note for Orlby was that he, like you said, he's more of a wrestler generally, but he was winging shots. I was
Yeah.
said you wing enough shots, I guess one eventually does land because like he really kind of came out like a man possessed against the much bigger guy. It was an odd dynamic for that because like you said, you set it up perfectly for exactly why it was strange because I'm like this dude, you saw the height difference. I mean, Jack had a good amount of size on him. After the rehydration, the mass was definitely there a little bit more. You could definitely see that Jack was undersized compared to what he normally would have been, at the higher weight. So there was a little bit of a difference, but the height was obviously going to be the same, and there was a little bit more of a body mass. Orlabai looking a little bit more healthy at the weight as well. So I think that evened out a little bit there. But like for him to be as brazen with his striking in this fight, like he gave no respect to Jack in any of the exchanges at all. I mean, Jack was coming in with a couple of low kicks, but Orlby just basically struck his way past them. It was like, okay, yeah, throw a couple of those. I'm just going to loop a shot over the top of your head, and then one of these is going to knock you out. And gosh golly, one of them did.
This dude, Miktabek is special. I mean, the resume that he's building, aside from the weight stuff, but obviously there's something up with that because Dana didn't seem to give a shit. He still doesn't. You can miss weight all you want, kid. I mean, fuck it, you know. So the thing about Miktabek, he's coming into the organization. He's got a submission win against Uros Medic. That's key. He was able to take the striker down and rip his head off. Good to know. The next performance, he beats Tofik in Azerbaijan and almost rips his arm out of his socket. Okay, so we got 2 submissions. Love to see it. Now the third one, he steps up to a new weight class. Now he's a striker. Now can knock people out. At worst, what you guys got to understand, Miktabek's resume as of right now, the worst thing that he's done is went to a 3-round war with Rebecki that he arguably could have won. And I think when you look at the things like that, Jack Hermansson's a pretty, this is a veteran. This is a pretty big name for you to just go out there and sleep in the first round. Miktabek's resume is going to be something to behold here soon because Uros Medic, I mean, this is a guy, finish or be finished, he's going to be making a name for himself. He still is. He just knocked out Muslim Salikov.
Sure did.
Miktabek knocked him out 3 fights ago. So whatever you can say, I think Miktabek is on his way. When you look at the finishes and you look at the one decision that he did have, any other fucking person is dying in the second round to a performance like that. This is really key. I mean, Miktabek is going to be something really, really special. He already is. But I don't even think he looks like he doesn't even understand what it would mean to have a rank next to his name. But I can tell you for fact it is coming soon.
I mean, that kind of goes to my point. It's like you're saying all these attributes that he has. One that you left out is caveman aura, which
Yes.
I think is kind of it's part of the story, which is kind of ironic considering that the guy is apparently a lawyer back in his home country. So,
That's what I heard too. I'm like,
I mean, bro, don't judge the book by the cover, I guess is the answer to that. But regardless, I mean, all of the other stuff that you said is absolutely true about this guy now fighting at a more natural weight that he can actually make is great. I perhaps a little bit too much leeway given to him in those weight misses. I will definitely be the first to say that, and there needs to be reform regarding weight misses in general. We talked about this before. Regardless, that's not this fight. That's other, fights of the past. Hopefully, they do actually make some changes to that. But for this fight right here, really very solid win. Also, sad to say that this is now two times, two knockouts, 2 unneeded follow-up shots to Jack Hermansson, because there was another really big bomb that landed on Jack after he was well into the shadow realm. So really does suck to be Jack Hermansson right now. And I feel for the guy. He's one of our few Norwegian kings in this sport. We only got a couple out of the great country of Norway. Shout out to my guy, Mr. Rage Quit. Not his day, and now a pattern starting to form, unfortunately.
yeah, no, I definitely, when you hear people, when the science is about the weight cutting and they talk about the brain and how much liquid is, whatever you want to say, and then when you hear somebody who just got knocked out and they're dropping down a weight class, you would hope for the best, but this is the outcome that a lot of people expected, and that's what sucks for a Jack Hermanson fan because you could potentially you're like, that's a bad call. That is a bad call for you, and then you end up seeing the result of it. It's like I we all kind of knew what was going to, I mean, not against Miktabek, but the fact that he got knocked out, it's not surprising to people.
But the one reason why I'm okay with that as the outcome, even though I do like Jack Hermansson, is because it really the reverse of that argument is that, oh, well, I couldn't cut it higher up. So now I got brutally knocked out by RoboCop. I'm going to go weight bully.
Mhm.
And now you see what the result of that, you still can end up getting knocked out. So it's like, bro, if you can't do it at your more natural weight, because I mean, you saw him on the scale. I mean, he looked pretty depleted. Still made the weight and all of that. So all good. If you can make the weight, then go for it. But it does come with its own set of circumstances. And if you're cutting that hard to get down to a weight that's not natural to you, just so that you have a size advantage, as we talked about, he did have a size advantage, and this is the outcome. I think that there are deeper problems that are there than what the weight is going to, the weight is not the end all be all of the problems, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
So yeah, I'm kind of, as I said, I'm a fan of the guy, but you gotta be realistic. This is Jack 24-10 now.
Mhm.
It's starting to be time to have the tough conversation with yourself.
Yeah, I agree.
So, anyway, but shout out to Mictabek, our man riding in on a pterodactyl, as always, my boy. Also, shout out to him for his little basic English that he presented in his post fight. He was trying.
Nice. I normally don't catch the post fights because that's the bathroom break. But
True.
if he was out there speaking some English, hey, if I go through any sort of legalities, I know who my lawyer is. I'm calling. I'll
Absolutely.
send my carrier pigeon to go get
God forbid you ever go through any kind of legal trouble in Kyrgyzstan.
him. I know he'll
And
get me out of it. That's all I know.
the good point, exactly. We got the connect.
Yeah, imagine. I can just imagine. I go to Kyrgyzstan and I say, "Get me Mektabek. Get me the lawyer that is the fighter." And they're like, "All right, he knows what's up. We got to let him go now. We knows the big guns. He knows how to win."
What was Caveman Lawyer not a character on Harvey Birdman, Attorney at Law? Maybe I don't know. Maybe I'm not too far off here. If not,
Okay,
it certainly does track. Shout out to Harvey Birdman, great show.
nice.
Anyway, let's move on here. Volkan Oezdemir versus Alonzo Menifield. I know that you were pretty high. Yeah, no time was exactly correct here. I know you were high on Oezdemir coming into this fight. I thought that Menifield was going to be a little bit craftier than he ended up being in this fight. And actually, I don't think that I was too far off on the idea of it because of how it all went down for Menifield when he started to be under pressure. But what did you think?
I thought the fight wasn't very long, but I think you could instantly see that it could have went either way because what I noticed very early is that Uzdemir, God love him, he's game. When it comes to striking, he's game. But Menfield like touched him with a jab really early, and he like wobbled all across the cage for a second. I was like,
Was
oh,
it actually that though? Because I know what you're talking about it, and it looked like a slip, but I don't know.
yeah.
Look, if it was, then great. You know what I mean? I'll take that, and I picked Menifield to win the fight, so I'll hang my hat on anything. But it just the like maybe it was the angle we were seeing it at.
Yeah, I don't know. It looked a little wobbly to me, and I was a little worried, like, oh fuck, no way your chin's that bad. But he is game, and he don't let it affect him. He's gonna slug. So I really appreciate the pressure. Puts Menenfield up against the cage, throws some bombs, and I mean, when the fight started, I remember saying like, this is a guy who got knocked out in 30 seconds by Carlos Olberg. Volkan Oezdemir is gonna do nasty things to this guy, and evidently I was right. Volkan Oezdemir walks across the cage, gets stumbled a little bit, slips. What's funny is Volkan Oezdemir is one of these dudes, and I don't know what you would call this, but like gamesmanship, sure, but like he's one of those dudes where he's in the fight and he's like gotta like get himself hyped up, and it's like, all right, dude, calm down, and then comes out and then knocks out Menifeld. Like it's good performance from Vulcan. I really appreciate this dude because listen, I agree. We ain't got time to watch you bullshit around this fucking cage. I done watched the heavyweights at the first fight of the night. I don't need to see that again. Give me good minute and a half and one of you go out and I'm fucking good to go. Like Jesus.
Yeah, no, I agree, man. I mean, the no time aspect of things, kill or be killed. We were just talking about Uros Medic just a little minute ago. Similar type of guy, he'll go out there, run and gun. Sometimes it doesn't go his way. He's starting to get a little bit more consistent now, but he is of that same mindset. Like that was why when he called for the bonus and was saying like, I go out here and do the damn job. I was like, you have the receipts on that. Volkan Oezdemir is now making that same kind of case. It's like I go out here and get the job done, and I'm going to put this fight on whether or not it goes my way. I'm going to give it my all in the time that I have. Hitting that watch made perfect sense. Now, the note that I do have on Menifield's side, what I kind of led in with, what I had said about Waldo with the head movement and it being a very dangerous game, Menifield found out the hard way how that goes, because what happened here was that Menifield ended up getting caught by a couple of knees. He got caught by one that yeah.
No, the knee. I actually it was. Go ahead and finish your story, then we'll talk about
Oh,
the knee. Go ahead.
sure. Yeah. Because the first one was like, it didn't seem like it was that bad. The second knee ended up being a little bit more because it was close. Basically, the first knee set up the second knee in the sense that like it caught Menifield, got him backed up, and then Vulcan was like, okay, if that one worked, I'll try another one. Gets the second one, and now Menifield's on the cage. Menifield goes into the dodge, duck, dip, dive, and dodge mode and ends up getting caught with the power in that. You know, he was playing with fire. He ended up getting burned on that one. So, you know, like I said, Waldo did it effectively in his fight with Shamil. Sometimes you play that game, sometimes it don't go your way.
I'm glad you brought up the knee, because what I want you to understand is the way that Uzdemir set it up.
Mm-hmm.
And it was genuinely beautiful, because I don't think I even see flyweights do it this way. You know, there's a lot of people. Brandon Royval does a very good jab, teep, jab, raise the knee, show the knee. Volkan Uzdemir threw an uppercut, and the knee followed the uppercut. So like the way that it was, you see a punch coming and it's blocking your view here, and the knee's just right underneath it. It was, you dip, you slide out the uppercut. I even think he caught him with the uppercut too, but it was just to place the punch. The knee's coming right to it, drops him in the chin. Very, very good work from Uzdemir. I mean, listen, I'm not going to say this dude's got the skill set that's going to take over the fucking world, but when it's against a fellow striker that Carlos Ulberg is able to knock out, I'm going to go ahead and take Volkan Uzdemir.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think that this was a very solid performance, and another guy, like you said, understands the assignment, which is,
Yeah.
you know, it seems like not everybody in this sport is of that mindset, and this dude does. So good deal here. I almost wanted to say that it looked like the way that Menefield went down. It was not an early stop. I'm not saying that it
Yeah,
was. I wouldn't. But like from the angle that we were at when we were a little bit far back, it did look like because he was kind of hunched over, and so you were like, oh, maybe he's still with it, you know. And it was just like, oh, he got TKO'd. He ended up collapsing into the referee, and I was like, oh, well, that takes care of any doubt that you might have had in your mind. I was like, oh, what a bad visual that was, unfortunately, for Alonso.
Yeah, the finish, it is one of those ones where he's like stuck in time standing, and then he
Yeah.
takes three extra shots. It's like, all right, he's done, he's done, he's done. Oh, really had to wait for him to hit the mat. Like, come
Yeah,
on.
and then because it's like he goes down to the single knee on the mat, and you're just like, okay, maybe he's just accepted the loss, but then it's like the collapse on top
Yeah.
of it. It's like, oh god, that's an unfortunate visual, unfortunate optics.
Yeah, 100%. But,
So
well worth the visual, I will tell you that.
10,000%, absolutely. Uzdemir, really, really nice performance on this one. And a card, you know, going down up until now, we're coming into the co-main event here. A nice little spat of finishes here. So this card really did end up delivering in a nice way. You know, and we'll talk about the co-main here in a second. So
Hell yeah.
yeah, anything else on this one?
Shout out to Uzdemir one more time.
There you go. I like it. All right, let's go into the co-main event because I'm pretty sure we'll both have some interesting thoughts on this. This is Bilal Muhammad versus Ian Machado Gary. We just to set this up, we were on the last episode. We had a conversation about finishing ability from Ian Gary, and that was my big criticism. To the point where I didn't have a lot to pull clips from for this. For last week's spat of shorts that I put out on the channel. I pulled this clip because I thought the conversation was a good lead into this fight. And based on what we saw out of this fight, I'm really glad that I did. I think that this fight right here kind of exemplified in a lot of ways the criticisms that I've had of Ian Gary, and the dynamics were as such that the clip ended up proving a little bit truer than I would have thought. I'm not even criticizing the portions that I've kept from you because I think that the mindset makes sense, but I'm very curious to know your thoughts after seeing this fight, like what your current viewpoint of Ian Gary is.
My current viewpoint, my current viewpoint of Ian Gary, I don't think has changed. My current viewpoint of the welterweight division after Islam has took the belt has stayed the same. Before Islam claimed the welterweight title, there was a lot of uncertainty in my mind of who was going to be the champ, who was going to be able to just like take the forefront of this division. Now that Islam has the belt, and now that I've seen what Ian Machado Gary has done against Bilal Muhammad, I have once again reclaimed the thought that Islam has there's nothing that's going to be able to keep him from keeping that belt. And I'll tell you why. Machado Gary would like you to believe that he butchered Bilal Muhammad on the feet for 3 rounds. Wasn't necessarily that. Ian Gary actually, left a lot of openings for Bilal to take advantage of him in the striking, and he actually didn't. This was a fault on Bilal. Once again, he's trying to show you that he's a striker, and he's not necessarily the best at it. The thing about this that I think is key It's not that, and Ian Gary would like you to believe, Bilal didn't take me down once, and he trains with Islam. He trained with them. I know how to not get taken down. He was still able to grab you. He was still able to get a hold of you. And that is the difference. Bilal Muhammad may let a grip go and he may not be able to get you down. Islam is not going, if he gets a hold of you, if he has a chance to grab you, there's no 0 for 7 on takedowns. There's 1 for 2 and 5 minutes of control time is going to one of them. And the second one he gets is going to be a submission. So the reason I think it's unfortunate for Ian Gary, because I before Islam took the belt, this is the guy that I would say is on his way to get the belt, and anybody in his way is not necessarily going to be a factor. Shafkat's going to be injured. Carlos Preitas, he already beat. Michael Morales is not going to get the opportunity. Whatever you want to say. But after what I saw Bilal was able to accomplish against Ian Gary, I am 100% certain, and I don't say this with joy, because Ian Gary, I think the skill set, the talent, the potential, the superstar in the making is all there. It is just a damn shame that Islam is 15 times better than Bilal Muhammad. So
I mean, okay, fair enough. I think that all of what you're saying is within the acceptable realm as far as the assessment goes as a person who is high on Ian Gary. But what I will say about this fight is that on the watch along, now assessment may have slightly changed on the rewatch, but on the watch along, I thought Bilal won this fight. I had Bilal win in that first round and the third round. This to see two judges give 30-27s to Ian Gary in this fight is atrocious to me. What I have in the notes is that this should be a moral victory for Bilal, even in defeat, because he outstruck Ian Gary in the third round, and I don't give a fuck what anybody says about it. I go back and rewatch it, especially at the very end. He ends up getting some good shots in there. I was like, that in and of itself should be something to hang his hat on in his after being the champion portion of his career. We talk about the hero's journey in this sport. Bilal is on the other side of being a champ now, regardless of how he had to get there and all the circumstances thereof. So look, as I say, upon rewatch, first round was very close. I can understand it going to Ian Gary, but the fact that I even have to say that really does prove the point that I was making in the clip that I put out there. Ian Gary not being a finisher is the thing that will bite him in the ass the most, because these kinds of fights right here, that like this should leave those questions in your mind about the potential for him going forward as far as other people are concerned. Now, granted, he's doing it at the highest level of the division, so I think that's okay. That like it's a little bit more like what ify, you know what I mean? Like, he's done it against so many other people so much better than, that it's like, okay, I mean, now he's consistently doing it. So it's like, even if it is close, it's still like he's close with the highest of the high. So it has a little bit of a different air to it at this level of the game, but it does not change the fact that these are the types of fights you get out of this guy. It is always grindy, plotty, playing their game. You know what I'm saying? Oh, well, Bilal wants to try to take me down. He couldn't do that. But like you said, he got his hands on you because you let him play his game. Like, you have to take control of these fights. You have to be the winner of these fights, not just a guy who can keep up and then surpass your opponent. You need to overtake your opponent, and that is what Ian Gary does not do.
I think there's another thing that we're leaving crucially out of the equation here, which is very key, because this one is, needless to say, an interesting set of circumstances when it comes to eye pokes. So the first eye poke that we get from Ian Machado Gary, he protests. Nope, no, was not. No, don't let him do it. We clearly see the replay. It was
Clearly
an eye
was.
poke. It was an
Absolutely.
eye poke. What I also would like to note about the situation here is that, so Bilal goes to the corner and he's fixing his eye. He's doing his thing. We get a doctor to come in to fix the cut on the wrong side of his face. Interesting, interesting. Love to see that. Why did we do that? Why did we get a doctor to come wipe the cut? Not even relevant to the
Oh,
eye.
was it the other eye?
It
I didn't even put two and two together on that. The
cut
eye that got
on, yeah, cut on the left cheek, finger in the right eye. So that was the interesting thing. Then we get a second eye poke, or third, if you want to double count the double fists. Now this one is interesting because I I agree. Never extended his fingers. I yeah, what he did exactly what the ref. Hey, do that. You get your fingers closed. Close your fingers. He did exactly what he needed to do, and Bilal tried to get away with it. And I think that is what's interesting about this situation is the first eye poke warranted. Second eye poke wasn't really an eye poke. Did he stop the fight because hey, he's putting his fingers in my face? Well, he didn't. He had his fingers closed. So the fight shouldn't have even been stopped. It was a legal gesture in the moment, you know?
Well,
And
to the ref's credit, though, that once he realized that it wasn't, he did restart the fight pretty like immediately. So
I
I
I
think it went correctly, is all I'm saying.
I agree, but I think it was just part of the interest, the interesting nature of the situation with the eye pokes. You know, ever since Tom Aspinall, now everything that happens near the face when it comes to fingers, fight has to be stopped. We have to take a look. Oh, whoa, whoa. Nope, no fingers. All right, start it back up. You know, and then we didn't get any points taken. We didn't get any. You know, I think there was a hard warning after the first one, and then we saw him do the. So what exactly should have been the right call, because Ian did poke him in the eye the first time. Second time he didn't. He did exactly what he needed to do to prevent the eye poke again.
But that's
but
why
there was
that's why I think it all went correctly, is
but
because
there
it's
was
like,
still a stop though, like.
well, yeah, I mean, but you have to stop to check. I mean, like, so yeah, there's a little. If you're saying that it's gamesmanship on Bilal's side, then yeah, I can see that there's a like, what do you do about that? I guess, but like, I think that like in those moments, it's like you double check that it is or is not. You find out it's not, and you start the fight back up. So I mean, I don't know.
all
Like,
I'm
how would you have liked it to go?
I think we were 1 for 1. I think we never got to see the correct outcome. I think because we got one fight stopped, eye poke, cool. But then we bring the doctor in. There's just weird shit going on right there with that
That
first
was
one.
a little strange. Yeah, that
Second
probably did
one,
not warrant the doctor, but yeah.
and then the second one happens, and we stop the fight. We realize it was a legal move, and I remember it taking a little longer than us just being like, "All right, we're gonna run it back." It was. I saw Ian Gary doing this like 4 different times, like on the replay. Like I'm sitting here yelling at the screen like that's a legal move. Like let's fucking go get. Like he literally did. He never extended his fingers, never extended. So Bilal's over here milking what wasn't an eye poke. So we're 6 7, we were just weighing the options here of like what was the correct way to go, because we do have an eye poke and we do have the fight stopped, and it was taken a little farther than it needed to be with an eye poke. Then we have a ghost eye poke that was again taken further. It was taken to the extent of an eye poke, and then we find out it's not an eye poke, and then fight just goes back on. It's like, yo, the dude just fucking lied. The dude just fucking acted like he was poked in the eye. Like, and we saw on the replay he was not. So I don't know. What do you do with all that information? I don't know, but the facts are the facts, and that's just what I witnessed here. So,
Yeah, yeah. No, I mean, it's an interesting dynamic. I mean, I think you raise a good point about like, because it's like, if you, it depends on how you want to perceive that. Because on the one hand, you could say Bilal was just reacting to a knuckle in the eye that he could have thought was a poke, and either way, he's just reacting how you would naturally react, either poke or knuckle.
and
Oh, ow, 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 hurt my
and,
eye. You know what I mean?
and then you could go back and think about the Yoel Alvarez and Vicente Luque fight. Legal strike ended an eye poke. Should have been a TKO. We start the fight back up because we don't know what the fuck's going on. So there's just too many things that could happen. So I think asking for the right resolution, it just doesn't even fucking matter, because we're gonna see a dude who doesn't get poked in the eye stop the fight for a timeout. We're gonna see the same dude get poked in the eye, stop the fight, and then they bring the fucking doctor in. Like
Well,
nothing is right about the situation.
for sure. And I mean, and this, again, we're broken records on this one, but this is why, at least in my estimation, there just needs to be at least a harder set of in writing criteria as to how these things are handled, so that at least you get closer to a standardized methodology that's going to work for these things. Like you have a list of the criteria, you have a list of the things that have to happen when these things happen, and then because this sport is so unique in the sense that there is so many micro movements and small motions and things that comprise all of these things. Like it's a lot of in the moment differences that make every fight unique to itself. So it's like if you get closer to standardization, then there's still going to be a little bit of variation. But if you're taking the bandwidth from, this far out, then you get it to this far out, and then you can still at least be within that smaller range, as opposed to the free for all that you get from it being as wide open as it is right now.
Yeah, 100%.
So, but I
I
agree, though. I do think that does add something to the dynamics of this fight. Um, That aside, though, I mean, I don't think that, thankfully, at least, we did not get this to be a full-on fight-altering set of circumstances, the way like what you're saying with the Alvarez and Luque fight was.
Yeah, I think, in my opinion, I know there's people out there who will tell you that Bilal Muhammad is, and I'm not saying it in a way that I don't believe this personally. There are people out there who will tell you Bilal Muhammad is a top contender. He's never been finished, whatever you want to say. For me personally, Ian Gary not finishing Bilal Muhammad for what I believe Ian Gary possesses on the feet, I think this is a notch down from the stock that I had in Ian Gary. Because in my opinion, from what I believe the future Ian Gary was supposed to be, that finishes Bilal. That butchers Bilal on the feet.
That's
So
really all I wanted to hear out of this conversation, because that was part of the clip was, you're saying that this should be the turning point of where the next evolution of Ian Gary is. And I was on board with that. I'm like, based on what we have seen out of Ian Gary coming into this fight, that would have been exactly appropriate, would be, especially Bilal later on. We just talked about, how past being the champ he is. And, now it's starting to be that time where he should be finishable, perhaps. I mean, even if he is tough, it's like this is the exact right time for it to happen, with the exact right opponent for it to happen with. Like all of those things could have lined up correctly here. And if Ian Gary was going to be that guy, now would have been the time. That's why I do take a little bit of pause, because of the point that I had made about him being a finisher. This does not bode well for a champion level fighter, in my estimation. The
mhm.
way that his conducting of this fight, I just think from top to bottom, the fact that on the watch along, now granted, I'd say during the rewatch, I can see him getting 2 out of those rounds. Like all 3 rounds, definitely not, but at least the first 2 rounds, I can see that round 1 going to him. The fact that I'm having anywhere near this level of conversation about a person who's supposed to be champion level, concerning.
Yeah, I wish I would have seen the finish on Bilal, because I think Bilal is a finishable opponent, especially if he's willing to stand and strike with you. I mean, in my by my estimations, if that would have been Carlos Prates or Michael Morales that he chose to stand with, the fight was going to be over. So Ian Gary not really possessing the finishing ability. I mean, it is Bilal, and some people will argue he's decent enough not to get finished. Fine. Ian Gary, I think with all of the tools that he has, and for as big of a game that he's talking, for all of these opponents that he's now reaching for, not even in his weight class, you should have finished Bilal. That's just me.
When you say reaching, or were you referencing him reaching to pat Hamzat on the back and Hamzat turning it into a?
Reaching over to shove him further across the room.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was a very strange situation there, because to Ian Gary's credit, outside of the cage, he does seem like he wants to be somewhat friendly with people. He apparently hugged Shavkat on the way out to the fight,
He did. I saw that.
So yeah, I mean, I didn't actually see it, but I did hear that happened. So great. I mean, like, him being a little bit more of an ambassador for himself, really, somebody who's a little bit more of a shake your hand kind of guy. Because there was another clip that I had seen, and I forget who it was, but it was like somebody eating lunch or something, and he like came up and said, hey, shook his hand and was like, hey, we're not fighting right now. We're just, everything's cool. I just wanted to say hello, have a good week, that kind of thing. It was like, that's how you should be conducting yourself, in my estimation. Anyway, I appreciated that out of Ian Gary. But anyway, I mean, like, other than that the whole situation with Hamza was a little strange. But I did want to also mention, based on what you were saying about his post fight, definitely a little bit cringe of a because he's a promo cutter. That's what people earlier on was saying, that they were a little he was trying to do a little bit of a Connor thing, Irish guy also, whatever, trying to maybe overhype himself, a little oversell. This was a little bit of a cringe after speech, his Octagon interview speech, after the performance that we saw, I would say.
I thought the speech was fine. I actually, I was on
Well, the
board
speech
with
itself was fine. The messaging.
after that performance, though. It would have been better if he just had a first round knockout. And he's saying, "I'm coming for the fucking," whatever. But
Right.
nah, I'm still on the Ian Gary hype train. But I think. I don't know, guys. I mean, not finishing Bilal, I think, and I'm just a Bilal hater apparently, because I would say the next couple performances that he goes against, I mean, he should be getting finished as well. I think Ian Gary, if he ends up being the odd man out of the people that don't finish Bilal in these next couple performances, or that after the ones that do beat him, if he's the one that stands out for having the close performance, that's not gonna bode well, I guess.
Right. And that goes back to my point too. So yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah.
We'll just have to see, I guess. Yeah, Bilal, I think that it's okay that he's sunsetting. We're obviously seeing rapid changes in welterweight right now. Really, I think that the biggest what if at the moment is Shavkat, because Shavkat is,
No.
well, no, I mean, no, not in the landscape of the division. I mean, because like Shavkat is basically sidelined while this division is rapidly evolving without him, is what I'm trying to say. So, it's kind of an unfortunate thing that that's the case. We're gonna have to see what happens when he does come back. I mean, is he even going to be in the same equation because the equation has changed?
Who knows? Yeah, that is a good one. Yeah, we're gonna have to find out what's going on with Shavkat because apparently he just don't know how to fight. I don't know. He just don't know how to stay active.
I mean, I don't think that he doesn't know how to fight. He's just injured and all of those other things. And if that's the case, who knows what the reality is? But it is conspicuous that he has been injured and re-injured and is out for quite an extended period of time as this division continues to grow and augment itself in ways that were not the case when he was active. So
And
sucks.
I'm pretty sure a lot of people were curious how fitting it would be for a champion who's always injured and always sidelined to get the belt. And we're seeing exactly what that's like in the 185 division. So if Shavkat comes back and gets the belt and he ends up being sidelined and inactive just like everybody else, we're gonna need to start throwing some vacancies around because I'm tired of seeing people hold these fucking belts and getting their title reigns just so I can see it in the little ticker on the bottom left of my ESPN fucking screen about how long this dude's title reign is, and it's one fucking fight from Hamzat Shemaev that lasted 1,600 fucking days. Like,
Yeah, this is a fair point. So
yeah,
hopefully that is not the case, and we'll see what ends up happening up a weight. But
oh yeah.
either way, that was the co-main event. Let's round this thing out with the main event here. This is Arman Tsarukyan versus Dan Hooker. I mean, really, my main point of all of this was Arman doing Arman things. Not too much to really discuss about this as far as I'm concerned, considering that actually I did want to shout out CTE. CTE, who was in the chat earlier. Hopefully, you're still hanging out with us. But if not, either way, still a shout out to the homie, because what he had said on the watch along was this fight was very much an athlete versus a fighter. Dan Hooker, he's a tough guy. He'll go out there. He, to his credit, walked forward. He never stopped walking forward in this fight. So, that is his style. He will walk face first into a fire. Arman Tsarukyan is a combat sports athlete. He is very well rounded. He is very active in all positions. He can do it on the feet. He can do it on the ground. And you saw that in this. So sometimes the grit and determination of a fighter who's going to go out there and throw hands does not equal up to the athleticism of a combat sports athlete. And that would be how I looked at this fight.
This fight, I mean, this guy beat Charles Oliveira, guys. If you didn't know that he was going to be able to beat Dan Hooker, I don't know what to tell you. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
I have heard, and I know Dan Hooker's a Kiwi, so it's not necessarily the same. But I've heard that the Australians, there's not many of them. That we got to ride for each other, if that's what it is. So people of these smaller nations, the bias doesn't get put aside. And I think that is a good thing that you need to realize with some of these fighters. Like with someone like Dan Hooker, it was never going to be in the cards for him to beat Arman. I mean, I just don't genuinely think that it was ever going to be a thing. And that's the only thing that I'll say about it. Dan Hooker really just he cemented what I have been thinking about him for the last couple fights. He went to war with Jalen fucking Turner, got his arm broke by Jalen Turner, damn near gets beat by Gamrot, arguably does, in my opinion, left his face looking like a car crash. And now people are surprised that Arman Tsarukyan comes in and mops him in one round. Like,
Are people surprised? I mean, are they? I mean, I don't think anybody's really surprised by this, right? I mean, are there people literally that were like, I mean, I think a lot of people wanted Dan to win. I mean, look,
yeah,
we know that Arman is on the shit list. I really don't like Arman. I like, after what we talked about on the Friday show with the headbutt that was coming into this, all of his other stuff, that his little antics. He is a spoiled brat, is what he is. And that does not change the fact that he's really that great at this sport. I mean, he's that great at this sport. So it's like, I think a lot of people were maybe putting a little bit more faith in Dan than other fights because they wanted it so badly. But same thing happens with when Jake Paul fights. You know what I mean? Like, everybody just wants him to get knocked out, but he picks the fight. I mean, really, I thought that the interesting take about this was from Derek Brunson, of all people, had said, he was like, Arman gamble paid off. He ducks Islam. He beats Dan Hooker. He's right back into title contention. This is exactly all went to play. His bullshit plan worked out perfectly.
The only thing that I think is only to note here, uh, is so if you remember, back when he pulled out from Islam, and everybody was talking about how he was doing that stupid training move that got his back hurt. You really, and nobody's talking about this, and I'm glad I get to be apparently the first, because I think it is completely crucial to talk about. When Dan Hooker jumped Gilly and Armin Tsarukyan did his little scramble out of it, that was 100% because of that training move. Like, it is almost exactly the same position. Just roll to your head and then just contort your body the other way. He genuinely, we can laugh at him all we want for how stupid that training method looks. It literally came to fruition. It saved the fight for him. I mean, he wasn't obviously going to fucking tap to a fucking guillotine from Dan Hooker, but like the thought process behind the training, I get it now. Like, it literally makes sense. It looks stupid, but it
Oh,
100% has a factor.
yeah, no, I mean, I don't like. I never thought that like the training is well. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's a kind of a goofy-ish looking move, but I think that there is always value to it. I think that what people were more upset by was that was the thing that took him out of, potentially anyway. That's what he
Right.
was hanging his hat on. Regardless of that, though, yeah, no, I mean his flexibility is one of his great strengths. I mean, he's extremely flexible on top of being as active as he was. But it is funny though, because that same move that allowed him to get out of all of the submission attempts, actually, for a quick moment, Dan Hooker is not the fighter to recognize it. I saw this on Instagram, and I was like, man, that's kind of crazy. For a very brief moment, Armin was actually in one of the most dangerous submissions that you can be in. He was actually in a dragon sleeper, which is essentially where his head was, like facing upwards and is kind of almost in the guillotine position. And you can kind of crank back on that and like almost knee under the back and like submit that way. And it's a very painful submission to be in if you can actually pull it off. I saw someone actually doing one successfully, and it's like, damn, you do not want to be that. Hooker, of course, not the guy to be able to do that, but it is kind of funny that like those elements can be a little bit more dangerous if it was a different guy, but he's not the guy. So it ended up working out for him here. Flexibility ends up being on point and being successful. So all in all, ended up working out fine. And I do think you make a good point there that like, yeah, if anybody thinks that things that like that are goofy, then surely they do not realize the value when you're actually in a competition.
Yeah, I think it wasn't that it was just goofy, and I don't think people should be making fun of it, or I think it should just like it's just funny how it works. Like, that is the clip that everybody hangs their hat on. Like, look, there goes Armin hurting his fucking back, because he's trying to impress Nina. But that move, that exact sequence is what he was able to get out of a submission with. So
Sure.
it looks really stupid, and it looks like, yeah, he's just doing something to impress Nina Drama. Sure, funny tagline, but it was actually something that worked out. We see a lot of stupid fucking training methods these days. There's a lot of stupid stuff in this world. I used to see them on Twitter. It was more or less about basketball. Mixed martial arts, I don't go into the coaching side too much and learn about what drills they're doing, because frankly, there's some stupid ones out there as well. But you can see them all the time. Some coaches just don't know what the fuck they're doing, and they shouldn't be coaching people. But when you see something like this, and you see the training, and then you see it actually practical, like it adds up. It's like, okay, somebody actually knew what they were doing when they told him to do that. Like, the thought process was, if you get in the guillotine, you can just roll out of it, even if you potentially might put yourself in the worst submission that you could have ever done. So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Fair enough. I mean, really, like I don't have all that much else to talk about with this. I mean, I talked about Armin's activity. I mean, as I said, I think it's one of his greatest attributes as a fighter. There's no lay and pray in Armin. Like, he is always doing something to either advance himself to a better position or strike. So I have to really give him credit for that. I think that it's, again, one of his greatest attributes is that he's never inactive in his fights. It's only time he is ever deactivated is when it's his opponent's doing, and it's very rare that that happens. So shout out to him for that. And the real last note that I had was that the head clash was a little bit unfortunate because it certainly swelled Dan's eyebrow ridge of about 4 sizes after that connected. But I mean, what it could have happened off of strikes if it wasn't going to. And really, I mean, I think that it was just an unfortunate little kind of blip in an already very problematic landscape for Dan.
See, the thing about that one is that could have actually happened at the weigh-ins. You know, that
Good
like
point.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the thing about that also, well, not about that specifically, about this fight also is that if I was truly a Dan Hooker fan, and he comes in here with a new fucking tattoo every fight, and he's having a good time, and he's telling us that he's gonna smash this dude, and I watched you jump 2 fucking guillotines, and that was your plan? That was your winning method against Arman Tsarukyan? Just jump Gilly. Dustin Poirier works out for him so much.
He
Love
saw
to see
Suam
it.
Almabayev. That's what he saw
Yeah,
Almabayev
yeah.
earlier on the card.
But it just makes me mad, like, that Dan Hooker, you were supposed to smash him on the feet. He takes you down instantly, and it's just like, all right, I just gotta fucking jump a Gilly. There's nothing else. Like, like
That is an unfortunate aspect of this thing, because that's what everybody really wanted out of this, was for Dan to chin him, and it's just there really was no real, that wasn't happening.
and we do and I'm not trying to, be. What was the camp like if you get into the fight and you have nothing, like nothing at all? You may as well not even have went to camp if you have nothing to offer in the fight that's gonna like be relevant. Like the fact that Armin smoked Dan Hooker, it's not surprising. But as a professional athlete, a veteran of the sport, Dan Hooker is he's got the skill sets. There should have been at least something that I could have hanged my hat on. Like as a top contender, well, he did that to Armin. Like, he at least got him. Like he jumped 2 fucking guillotines that weren't gonna work.
I
So
mean, that's why I led off with it. He walked forward, but he walked directly into an ass whooping, is what it was, unfortunately. But that is really, because I think that, like, if you go back to Dan's other fights, is some of the ones that he was more successful in, like, if he's able to sort of like get his rhythm and unfold with that pressure level, then he does have a little bit more success, like further on in. If like another fighter who, if he's getting his way, then things go his way. But it's like, you can't just walk forward without actually throwing your hands and expect Armin not to just, get his arms around your waist, start transitioning to the other positions that he wants. I mean, Armin is tactician when it comes to this type of fighting, and you were basically like already figured out by the way that you were like putting the pressure on without backing it up.
I think what I will admit, I don't know if anybody else feels this way, but I would rightfully assume they do, and they just won't admit. Um, Armin is a lot better than I remember. And it's not to say, and I know I talked about with Shamrock and Aliev is like the level of competition that we're facing should, we should have a better gauge here. But Armin genuinely, you could see very good things. The activity, like you said, on the ground, the takedowns, the defensive escapes, the striking. Dan Hooker is a ranked opponent. This is one of the top competitors at lightweight, and Arman Tsarukyan made it look easy. It's not an unranked opponent that he made look easy. It is a ranked opponent who is genuinely close in some realm to getting a title shot. Not now, but before the fight had started, he was.
Who know now? Oh, you mean Dan Hooker you're talking
Dan
about? Yeah,
Hooker,
you got,
yes.
yeah, sure.
So Arman Tsarukyan is very good. I after we did not see him fight Islam, I think in our minds he loses a couple notches down, and we would, and maybe not everybody assume uh, coordinates that with his skill set, but like if he didn't fight Islam, in my mind, time goes on, I'm forgetting more and more about his performances and what he actually does bring to the table. This was a very good refresher. Like, okay, actually, him and Islam would have been a really good fight.
Yeah,
It's
well, I
just
mean,
unfortunate.
that's my whole. That's, yeah. No, like from my perspective, like this is why I hate Armin so much. Is he is that good? Like that fight should have happened. Him and Islam was supposed to happen and should have happened. Like
Hmm.
it. The fact that he, as the spoiled brat that he is, just decides that he wants to have the exact set of circumstances. Because think about it like this, right? There's two ways that that fight, him pulling out of that fight, could have been. One, he didn't want to fight and just made up an excuse, or two, he was actually injured. Either one of those does not bode well for him, because one is, literally, I just want to wait out for a different opponent and, make it easier for myself to just snatch the belt. Or the other is, I'm injured, but is it actually an injury that is taking me out of the fight? Or do I just want to be 100%, I don't even want to have a hangnail going into the fight. Both of those do not bode well for a champion. So it's like, I like, it's his personality that's the problem. It's not his skill set.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. We as the fans know personally, and this is a thought to me, of course, that I know what the truth is. If Dana White would have came out and said, Armin's really messed up, guys. His back is like he can't move. Like I watched him walk down the hall and his back is just locked up, like he's stiff. Like, no, that's not the case. It was, well, we got to find a new opponent because our guy's injured. Like,
Yeah, and then Dana says, "Oh, well, he's going to have to work his way back to the title. It's not, he's definitely not." And then this is the working back to the title is. I mean, granted, you're right. You're making a good point. He is a ranked opponent. I guess and
well,
Armin even
no,
in the
no, no. Well, I think you are missing. I think you're missing
no,
the
no, I know. I
psychology
get your
point.
I got your point about that. I
Well,
understand what
no,
you're saying there, but
no, not about that. I think the point that Dana's making is because, and this was a while ago, but the working back to it is not just Dan Hooker. I think we are definitely getting Ilya and Patty, so that means Armin is going to have to fight another time. That's just my personal opinion about it.
okay. I
That's
mean, if
going to be
that's
the working back to it.
and if that happens and then he wins again, hopefully without a whole bunch of bullshit involved as well, then I'll be at least okay with that. I mean, like, maybe I don't even know if I will be okay with that because it's him, but like, still, I guess I'm gonna have to be, right. Well, yeah, look, I'm not
If
gonna.
I can come across to saying Zalal can beat people and is a good representation for Morocco, let's start not hating on Armin Tsarukyan so
Oh,
much.
apples and oranges, I would argue, but okay, fine, fair enough. He wins another fight after that. Fight somebody a little bit closer, make it like a fight that he has to take whoever the opponent is. It's just like, look, you have to fight Armin, or you're going to be in the same position Armin was in. Okay, and then I'll at least give it if he's not pulling a whole bunch of extracurricular nonsense. But still, he's always going to have blemishes on the record based on how he conducts himself, and it all plays out into this landscape that he himself has made. You always have to remember, we talk about narratives in this sport. He created this narrative for himself.
100%.
So, all right, well, I mean, I guess then that will do it. Unless you got anything else about Dan and Armin.
No, I think I spoke my piece. I think I did that.
As did I. So that takes us to the end of UFC Fight Night, Tsarukyan versus Hooker. Chase, after talking it through, what are your final assessments of this Qatar card?
This was a really good one. This was a really good one, other than, and I know I started it talking about the first two fights, but I will give Aliev a little bit of grace. The first fight was dog ass. The second fight was not great, but it was at least enjoyable. Every other fight on this card, very, very fun. We had a lot of good finishes that were actual finishes. People literally went lights out or they got choked out. I mean, there wasn't no ifs, ands, or buts about it. We didn't see a lot of tapping and we didn't see a lot of stoppages on the feet, other than Alonzo Menefield, but he was unconscious. I promise you guys.
Yeah, most definitely. Yeah, really, talking it through was a good way to refresh all of the memory on everything that happened here. And after talking it through, this really was a very fine card. I think Qatar got a really nice entryway for them being a region of the sport that gets fights.
I forgot to mention it. I forgot to mention it. So, and this is back to the crowd cam moment that I foreshadowed at the beginning. There was one specific crowd cam moment that was absolutely beautiful by the UFC because it is just such perfect timing that you can't make up. So, Big Waldo gets his knockout. Okay, this is the most exciting portion of the show. Like, this is Big Waldo came out here. He did it again on 48 hours notice. They cut the camera to Speed, which you are familiar with
Sure,
Speed,
ISO speed, yeah.
and he's just yawning. Love it. You
Got
get
him.
you get our social media influencers that are supposed to, these are going to be the people like, oh my God, Speed's on the TV, and he's not even enjoying the most highlighted portion of the show. So, love to see it.
Fantastic. Yes. Very glad that we got I Show Speed and KSI in the crowd for this one. Man, I hope that they enjoyed their time in Qatar. Good Lord. We're talking about Hezbollah having his licensing deal. I can guarantee you that those two gentlemen were paid a good amount of money to fly across the world and sit in a chair.
Yeah, and hopefully they were sat maybe very, very far away or at least in front of Lazy Boy so they didn't have to see his lips.
Good Lord. If you haven't seen the image, join the Discord. You'll see it in there, and highly,
I
highly recommend it.
I don't know if you recommend it highly because that's going to be in my nightmares.
Yeah, for real, exactly. So, sweet dreams on that one. But yeah, that takes us to the end of the fight night, of course. And really, I mean, closing out the show. But of course, we do have the last pay per view of the year, and technically, if you think about it, the last pay per view for the foreseeable future, because we are no longer going to have pay per views after the start of the year. The new era begins on January 1st with the Paramount deal. So this is technically the last time that you would have to pay extra money for the numbered events. So the last numbered event of the year is, of course, UFC 323, which I screwed up at the top of the show, but we won't forget about that. This is Dvalishvili versus Jan 2. And we also have no fights coming up this weekend, so we're just going to do a very quick rundown of these fights. Come back next week. Next Monday, we will be doing a next week's fights where we will go over all of these fights in depth, give you our predictions and our thoughts on these fighters. So before I do that, Chase, you got anything that you wanted to add to what I just said there?
I think everybody should just be ready for next Monday because we are going to go over all of these fights in depth, and there's some that you really don't want to miss, especially that nice co-main event that's hanging around. But we'll get
Indeed.
into
So,
it.
yeah, let's run them down real quick. Of course, your main event of the evening is Merab Dvalishvili versus Piotr Yan in their rematch. Looking forward to that one. Co-main event, Alexandre Pantoja versus Josh Van, Mr. Chase's favorite fighter, or one of them at least. After that is Brandon Moreno versus Tatsuro Taira. That is a banger of a fight right there. Henry Cejudo is taking on Peyton Talbot. Interesting matchup there. I think that there's a lot of dynamics going into that one that'll make that interesting. Jan Blachowicz versus Bogdan Guskov. Guskov getting a little bit of a bump there for, maybe depending on how you look at Jan Blachowicz nowadays. We'll talk about that one, of course. On your prelims, Grant Dawson back again versus Manuel Torres. Interesting that that's so high up there. Maybe that bout order will change. Terrence McKinney is fighting Chris Duncan. Now that it has fireworks written all over it, potentially.
Hell yeah.
Macy Barber, if she shows up, is fighting Karini Silva. And on your early prelims, how are they putting my boy Nazim Sadikov on the early prelims? This is a banger fight right here. Nazim Sadikov versus Fares Zayem as your early prelim featured fight. Good Lord, tune in early because that is a banger waiting to happen as well. Marvin Vittori is coming back to fight Bruno Ferreira. Save it for next week. But I mean, I guess you're getting some of Chase's opinions on that. Edson Barbosa back again against Jalen Turner, who is making his return to the sport after some time off. So we'll see how that all turns out for him. Ivo Baranowski is fighting Baranchevsky, I believe. He's a contended series guy.
Yes.
But yeah, Ivo Baranchevsky versus Ibo Aslan. Ivo versus Ibo.
I just noticed that as well. Very funny. We'll talk about that next week for
For
sure.
sure. And Mansour Abdul Malik is fighting Antonio Tricoli. Wow, they're setting up Tricoli, but okay. And starting the thing off is Muhammad Naimov versus Myron Santos, our tough king over here. So that is your card. Of course, I can see both myself and Chase wanting to jump in on our opinions of these, but we will save it for next week. If you want to hear what we got to say about it, tune in next week. Same bat time, same bat channel here at 10 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time for next week's fights. Until then, we will, I guess we're going to have to try to figure out something for Saturday. But if we do have something going on the weekend, you'll find myself, possibly the Vitz King, on youtube.com/@YamaShow. Chase, I know you can tell them where they can find you.
They'll find me this Friday specifically, and the next after that, and the next after that, and every other Friday that the ONE FC Championship has a fight card. they will find me on youtube.com/@cpsmalls, streaming that and having a great time doing it.
Make sure that you tune in if you are around on a Friday morning. Hang out with my boy Chase for these one fights because there's some really good stuff happening over in one that goes under the radar. It's free on YouTube. You can watch right along with Chase, and it is a great time. I try to get it in as much as I can, schedule allowing. So definitely do that. I am on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Yama Show. And if you want more of this fine duo of myself and Chase, our review of Warrior has been edited. It is uploaded. It is done. It is on the channel right now. You put that on, you're going to get to see some nice visuals along with our very in-depth review of this classic MMA film. So check that out. Let us know what you want to do for MMA on film in the future. We appreciate your comments on that. And I think that that's about all that I got for this one. So Chase, any last thoughts?
No, I think that's it. Everybody in the chat, just wanted to give you a shout out because you guys are awesome. And like we were just talking about with our MMA movies, if you guys have any options that you are thinking about, please figure out how to reach out to us. We both have our individual discords that you can figure out how to get access to. If you reach out, leave a comment, leave a like, leave a subscription, leave everything that is going to show your support to us, because boy, we are really trying to get to this next level of the podcasting, and we're so close. You're getting us there, and it's going to come in due time. But how about let's just quit fucking around, let's just get it done right now, let's just do it for next week. Let's
Exactly. Let's
so
make due time now time. Absolutely.
literally, absolutely.
I'm so with it, but we do appreciate the support. We had a couple of new people in the chat tonight. Appreciate you as well. Have a great rest of your night, guys. Great rest of your week. Until we see you next time, fight on.